Thank you so much for coming out this afternoon. First, just a little bit about this Stable Owners Association of Alberta. Who are they? They started one day a couple of years ago with a couple of old guys sitting around drinking a cup of coffee in a service station restaurant by the Tempo there. Actually, they weren't old guys, they were older guys. They were very mature guys with great business experience and a lot of experience successfully running stables. So there was a young guy with us too, and he was absolutely astounded by what he was hearing coming from these two older gentlemen. I only saw him roll his eyes back about 8 or 9 times that whole first morning, so he was obviously very impressed. Our conversation focused around running a stable, having horses, and all of the different things that were coming that would impact a stable business. I mean, times are changing and everybody knows that. There's things happening in our municipalities, there's new land use bylaws. There's now talk about what do we do with all the manure, all the waste. Urban people moving out into the rural areas, and they're quite concerned when the horse next door leans its head over the fence and starts eating the grass. And there's just so many things aside from the care and careful looking after these animals. And then you've got a different kind of clientele, different expectations. And all of these things are heaping on top of all of us, and somehow we survive. And we survive because I think most of us have to be pretty much crazy. When you think about it, it's 24/7, 365 days a year. You're always on. What kind of people do things like that? Well, it's people who have a real passion, obviously, for the horse. Whether you ride or you just love being with your horse, there's a passion involved. I'm often asked at our farm by clients, did you ever take a vacation? I wasn't really sure what that word meant at first. And then it dawned on me, so my key response would be, well, you know, we're out here in the country, every day's a vacation. Other than not having a few big rocks and some waterfalls, we've got everything here that Jasper has, and we've got more trees now. So it's a life that not everybody can appreciate, but those of us who are into it, we do really appreciate it. These Stable Owners Association of Alberta, we have a board of directors, and I'm going to introduce that board. We formed a not-for-profit organization. We did it up just right so that we're all legal and above board, and we're able to operate with a clear vision. Our president is Mrs. Dawn Johnson. Dawn, can you just, wherever you are, just here she is down here. Dawn is our fearless leader. We have Archie Hurst, one of our directors, Cam Prowse, one of our directors, Hetty Clausen, one of our directors, and Lauren Oswald, one of our directors. We really stepped out in style. We also have an executive director, and he has helped us in so many ways. I'm not sure where he is around the corner there, but Burke Oswald is our executive director, a great communicator, and he does really keep us in line. So one of our main focuses of today, and we need you to tell us before this afternoon is out, is there a need for an organization like the Stable Owners Association of Alberta? And I want you to be blunt and frank and open and honest, because maybe there isn't. And we need to hear from you. We need to hear, if there is a need, what sorts of things should we be focusing on to help you and all of us better understand and better run our businesses? What sorts of things could be happening? There seems to be a real void since the horse industries branch dissolved back in 2015 or 2016. That Alberta Horse Conference was a major event in the life of Alberta horse people, not just stable owners, but Alberta horse people. And as a matter of fact, the last Alberta Horse Conference was right here in Strathcona County. Our county council and county friendly staff got right behind us, and it was a very, very good show. Do we need more of that kind of thing? Do we need to have a monthly meeting? Do we need to have Zoom meetings? Do we need this organization at all? So I want you to have that in the back of your mind as we're going through this afternoon. Before you go home, we'll have a little survey that, very simple, you just circle, circle, circle. And you're not committing yourself to a lifelong job of being a director or anything like that. You're just helping us get some answers to questions from you people, the very industry that we're hoping we can serve. We even need to know things like, if you were a member, what's it worth to you? What should a yearly membership be worth? And we're not looking to try and trap you or anything. We just want your feelings on what's fair, what's honest, if there is a need, what can work. And then after that, we'll take all your information and we'll go over it, and we'll get back to you one way or the other about where we're going to go from here. But this afternoon, we have a great lineup of folks. And as soon as our Mr. Lawrence here gets his things sorted out, we'll be ready to go. I want to tell you first a little bit about Glenn Lawrence, who's going to be our first speaker this afternoon. Known Glenn for a lot of years. I can honestly say you've all got questions about the new ag facility. This ag facility would not be a reality today if it weren't for Dr. Lawrence here. He has been just a great person to work with, and in the eyes of the Stable Owners Association, it has been an excellent opportunity to learn of the importance of having a good relationship with municipalities, with your elected officials. This guy has helped the horse industry in more ways than most of you will ever know, and continues to do so. His head's going to swell a little bit, but it is so important to do that. There are things going to be happening around us today, like new land use bylaws. That's a reality in all counties. Now, Strathcona County, their own staff develop their land use bylaws. In other counties, Mintburn is a good example, as is Lamont County is another good example. They hired it all out. They hired a consultant, said, come up with our land use bylaws. And some of the stuff that they have come up with are bylaws that are going to be very difficult to live with. And I'm not sure if they actually all went through or not. But this is today, and we need to be involved in helping our county councils, our municipalities, answer some of these questions. The one little phrase that we came up with, Lauren and I and Burke, together we're stronger. If we have a large membership, it makes it very easy for us to go to any municipality and say, we're here on behalf of the Stable Owners Association and we're here to help you. It makes it so much easier for us to go to the provincial government and say, we represent X number of thousands of members. So our relationship with Glenn, and Councillor Corey is here as well, another rural councillor. They have made our lives very easy and very progressive so far. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Glenn, and he's got some interesting stuff to tell you.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, that does kind of go at your head, doesn't it? All that, you feel like you're totally responsible, and we're certainly not. Nothing on council gets done without at least 5 votes. So that's always the magic number, we call it, the 5 golden rings. And if you can get that, then you start to get things done. So all we do is keep the momentum going. But thank you very much for that. And we have spent a lot of time working on this project. Sorry for standing in front of you there when you were speaking, Gary. We were just trying to get that set up. Yeah, so again, Gary did a good job on introduction. He did half my presentation also, which thank you very much. Yes, and I want to introduce Corey Harwood. She's here, Councillor for Ward 6. Aaron can't be here. He's just actually, I think he's in the air from coming home from Hawaii from a vacation, so he would be here also. A little bit about myself. Again, I'm the councillor for Ward 7, which is the southeast corner of Strathcona County. Takes in that whole southeast, sort of what we call the lakes area. And got a bit of a history there. My family first homesteaded in the Manistic area in 1906. And my mother's family homesteaded actually in Strathcona, which in 1904, which is now part of Edmonton, of course. So pretty good history from the farm side. And I just live a few miles from basically where I grew up. So that's really good living in this county. So Gary had asked me to talk about manure management, different things to do with certainly with horses, but just agriculture in general. So what I wanted to do was give a little bit of a history of where Strathcona County is when it comes to agriculture. So originally our agricultural organization was called TAS, it was Transportation and Agricultural Services. And out of that spun all the responsibilities we had under the Act, certainly under the Municipal Government Act. And a lot of that was vegetation management, Agricultural Service Board, the 3 ag societies that we have are Dawson, Colchester, and Josephburg. Also what we call pest management, things like coyotes, beaver control, these types of things fall underneath the ag department that we have. And of course we have several ag field people that work for us that make all that happen. Well, it was becoming kind of an old, outdated kind of model that we were using for agriculture. Agriculture took a pretty big slide here in the county for quite a few years. Everything tends to focus, and I hear it a lot, and I'm sure you hear it too, that Sherwood Park gets everything, and it's Sherwood Park. And to a degree that's true, because that's where, you know, the bulk of the people live. We're a specialized municipality, we're urban, we're rural, so you have to cater to both. But again, it's shifted. If we'd gone back 60, 70 years ago, you would have had a council that was almost all rural, with maybe 1 or 2 urban councillors in the Sherwood Park area. It's completely switched now. We have 3 rural councillors, but even that's thinned out from an agricultural perspective. So it really makes it tough to push that agricultural agenda. And it's great when you get your colleagues, the urban colleagues that understand and buy into that. So in 2023, we made a big change. We went from what was Transportation and Agricultural Services to what's called TEO, and it's Transportation Engineering, and that was a move. We pulled agriculture out of that, and we put agriculture into planning, into environmental planning. So it's agricultural and environmental planning, which we felt was a really good move because so much of that land use overlaps with the agricultural component. So just the planning piece is critical in how things are developed here in Strathcona County. So we have what's called a municipal development plan, and that plan basically dictates, it's kind of the holy grail of the direction that the county goes. And we follow that, but we needed to tweak it. Again, it was becoming old. So we moved forward to, just keep my notes going here, to a better and more efficient way to look at things. We hired a specialist specific to look into things like overgrazing, manure management, a lot of the issues that we were starting to get on our table, because we're getting more and more people in the county, and when you get more people, you tend to get more conflict. And we also get a lot of urban people that want to get animals, livestock of various kinds, sheep, horses, chickens, all of that. And sometimes they're not too aware of just what it takes to have those that responsibility, but also the responsibility to the neighbors and the community that you live in. So again, we stuck to the same basic theme: vegetation control, weed control, which is probably the biggest one we have. Again, our beaver and coyote issues, the Ag Service Board, the Ag Societies, and the Ag Fieldmen. And some of the more things that we're looking at is animal issues, overgrazing, and manure management is becoming a bit of an issue. Again, because we're getting more people sort of starting out small farms, and with that, again, comes the issues that we have. So we're very limited under the Municipal Government Act what we can actually do. So what we do is we work with the NRCB, and I've got this is really difficult to talk. I think when I step back, do I lose you guys, or? Okay, I have a pretty loud voice, so that helps. So I put this slide in because it basically talks about the issues that we're dealing with now on a fairly regular basis. And again, you can see some of the pieces of that. And this is through Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation, Animal Health Act, the disposal of dead animals, livestock industry diversification and marketing. But the big ones are over here are on agricultural operations, the regulations, and all of those standards that you see there. You'll see manure characteristics at the bottom. That's what we work with the province. So if we get an issue, it's worked out really well for us to be in partnership with the province and also the NRCB to help us, because they can also have an appeal process where the individual can go to make their case if there's an issue. So keep that, there's their webpage there. Please write that down and keep that handy. Now, the other thing is you can certainly go through the county, and this gets back to what Gary was saying about working with the county and certainly your rural councillors. Never hesitate to call us. I mean, that's what we're here for. We technically don't work for the county, we work for the people. We're elected to be your representative. And sometimes it gets a little misconstrued. People think, oh, well, you're the county. Well, yes, we are, but we're the in-between. And you need to reach out to us, because we're only as good as you people out there communicating to us. Because if we don't get that communication, we just assume, well, everything must be good. And then unfortunately, we usually hear things kind of through the back door, and you're thinking, well, why didn't someone reach out? So again, I really have to stress that please contact your councillor, and also find out who your MLA is to lobby them on some of the more provincial issues, and of course even our MPs in our county to lobby them for the things that we need. We work very closely with RMA, which is the Rural Municipalities of Alberta, and that works very well. Also the agricultural societies of Alberta. We just had our conference this week, which was here in Edmonton, well attended, and it's that kind of information that keeps everything spreading out to the public, so that we can get that information out through our newsletters, just by approaching us. I know we're certainly very approachable. I much prefer to meet with you out in the field than over the phone or through email or anything like that. You can certainly contact me through that, but I have no problem getting out on site, and I can speak for my colleagues also. Very hands-on. All right, so I think we've kind of covered, I just wanted to show the other side of this slide again on the NRCB. I didn't put much up from the county because there really wasn't much there. This is where we tend to go when we have issues. And again, their contact number is there. So that's some of the different things that we deal with. Like I said, one of the big things we deal with now are overgrazing. You'll get people calling in and saying, geez, my neighbor, their field. It's always a dicey one, because you don't really want people ratting out on each other. I know we got contacted one time when the SPCA showed up, because someone saw the horses in the field and thought, well, these poor horses but once they show up, they realize that they're sheltered and there's food and water and everything's there. But people sometimes think they're doing a good thing. Also, we have responsibilities with fencing, Nothing makes a good, a bad neighbor than a bad fence, or a good neighbor with a good fence. And it's not only that they can get on other people's property, but you can have some serious car crashes and things with livestock. And as we all know, rurally now, you can hardly swing a cat without some car going down a road these days. So that's kind of one of my bugaboos. Unfortunately, I'm older now, so I remember when you could walk for 2 miles down your road and no one would come by, and if it did, it was your neighbor. Now you got to jump in the ditch every time somebody goes by because you're afraid you're going to run over. So it's changing times. So that's up there. Again, if you need anything on that, you can go online. I think everybody's pretty connected now. So just go into that. Also into our own strathconacounty.ca, and you can sift through that and find what we need, what you need to deal with us on that. Okay, just any questions on that part? I kind of wanted to get into the point presentations, the big ones, so I just wanted to. Okay, well, anytime, if you got any questions, ask them, or wait till we get to the question part, or I'll be here today and just have a chat if you need any more information.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes.
Do you know of any of the recycling places that might handle manure into composting?
That's a good question. We just at our conference this week, we talked about recycling. There were so many things I want to talk about. We only have a limited amount of time. But on twine, grain bags, bale wrap, these types of things. Also herbicide, pesticide containers, which we do collect. That here we're working with a new organization to increase that. But no, I don't know of anything with manure. I know, and I probably speak for most people here, we deal with our own. We have our own manure pile that we add to, and every spring I have people from this building coming out with their trucks, and I load them up with manure, and away they go. But we could certainly look into that. If you could, we could talk after. I'll give you my card. We'll find out what's going on, because we have probably one of the best waste collection and certainly recycling anywhere in the province, and we're always trying to find out more and more we can do.
Like we give ours away free. We just had an inquiry of whether they could come out with larger trucks, but it hasn't gone anywhere just yet.
Yeah, I think how that would work, it would probably have to be some of the local bigger operators that have the equipment. And if you had enough there where it was, workable for them to come out and to load and haul that away, I'm sure if there was, certainly some money to be made in it, that would certainly be an incentive also. But again, we can look into that. Thank you. So I'm gonna fire up the point. As Gary had mentioned, this is a big project that's been underway basically, almost 28 years. That's the first time I met Gary. I was first elected in 1998, and I'm not joking, one of the very first people that called me was Gary, and he said, we need an ag facility. And I said, yeah, well, sounds good. We had just, Millennium Place had just come in online, and that was becoming a very big success, so we thought it was certainly time for the rural part of the county. One of the properties we looked at was the current dog park out on 222, but that didn't work because it was an ex-landfill, and anyhow. So over the years, it was there, and it just sort of percolated along. We didn't gain a lot of traction. Well, it probably wasn't until around 2009, 2010 that we started to get some ground on it, and then I retired from council in 2010, so it sort of fell into some new councilors' hands, and I know Bonnie Riddell had picked it up, and Paul Smith up in Ward 5, they sort of championed it and kept it moving along. And so the 2 terms I was out in 2017, when I decided to run again in my ward, it was on the radar. And but it was a difficult run, because we were really shooting for this absolutely Cadillac Mercedes building. I mean, it was beautiful. But it was still a fight on council. It was always close, one way or the other, where we were going to go. We knew it was going to cost money. So we pushed and just kept pushing and pushing. And then unfortunately COVID came, and we had some staff issues, and we came very close to losing the whole thing. I mean, it literally could have easily, council could have said, no, you know, we're out. We're not doing that. We're gonna put this money into the field house, which is on the books right now for Sherwood Park, which is a very good need for the community, but it would have knocked us out of the race. And of the 12 issues that we're dealing with at the time, there was only one rural item, and that was the point that we were dealing with. Everything else was Sherwood Park, so it was very frustrating again. But in the end, we did come through. We didn't get the budget. It had ballooned up to $140 million. We knew we had roughly $60 million to work with, and council finally said, that's it, not a penny more, you gotta do it with that. So we worked with Bird Construction, and this is the facility that we have. And we'll get into some details about tours and things near the end. So, stay in my notes here, as I do have a tendency to drag on. So this facility is located, and how many know where the point is? How many have been out to the point? Well, the point is, you're familiar with Bremner House. The Bremner property, so Range Road 225 and Township Road 534. So if you go to Highway 21, you can see it from Highway 21 if you're heading toward the fort. And it's on the right-hand side. So in 2003, we had purchased the Bremner House for a historic value of 80 acres and the house, always with the future of agriculture and heritage. We were kind of planning ahead. It was a good price, we got it. So when we decided to build an ag facility, we still didn't know where it was going to go. There were different locations throughout the county. We ended up at the point, at Bremner House, because we had already owned some land there, and some more land came available. So we started out originally with 80, and we ended up with 230 acres that we purchased. And we decided that was the site. The proximity to Sherwood Park for the hotels, restaurants, we needed that connection. It would have been nice to have it out in my ward, but it was not practical. I mean, it just would take away from it. We needed to bring people in, and that was the key. We had the land. It was a win-win location. So again, in 2022, we pretty much said go, and it was on, and this is the facility. That's looking toward the northwest. So this is the site. You can see the building off to the left, still under construction. This was last fall. A lot of infrastructure we had to do on this project because there was no water or sewer up there. There was water, but we'll get to that. So we had to put in the sewage lagoons. These are evaporation sewage lagoons. And this is a stormwater collection, this area here, to help drain the site. It's a beautiful site. It's a class 1 soil. It was a bit of a heartbreaker to dig it up to build this facility, but yeah, it's just something we had to do, but we'll get into the whole ag side of it. So this is the site. So this is looking north, as you can see up here. So that's the CP rail that runs from Fort Saskatchewan, actually from Josephburg down into toward Sherwood Park into the rail yards there. So there's the Bremner House site, which we had this 80 acres here, and then we purchased this piece So that's the total coverage, like I said, 230 acres. There's the site, the entranceway is to the south, and there's basically 3 ways in, into the visitor parking, and then there's the overflow parking, but also the competitor parking, and 2 accesses in, and this is something we really had to get that information, and we really struggled in the beginning because a lot of people were giving us really good information and it wasn't being heard. And I'm not here to slam the people at the time, but it was really like pulling teeth, and Gary and Archie, who, you know, we worked on this, can certainly verify that. It was tough getting them to listen to the people that knew the industry. And that's what we needed to hear from. Because what do most people that aren't involved with this, they don't have a clue. And we really needed to listen. And in the end, I think we finally got there, but it was like pulling teeth. So we'll talk a little more about this parking a little bit more into the presentation. So the ring, the point building itself, and that's how it lays out on that site. So access Highway 21 is just a mile over, and 534 and 225. So good access from all directions. So this is the construction. This was just over a year ago, and you can start to see the frame of the building. At first I was a little concerned. I thought it just seemed small on paper, but we've been out there several times on visits, and I was actually quite surprised how big it is. It's 100,000 square feet in total, and a lot of room. So this area to the front, this is the ring, which we'll get into that, and then the back piece is the animal housing, which is all connected, and then the front is the lobby, the meeting rooms, the bathrooms, the concession area. There's private areas for meeting. We really thought that out to make it very functional. So here's an outlay of how it works. So we've got the main ring, which is, let me just get there. It's tough doing these on a podium because you've got a table presentation is always nice. All right, here we are. Sorry, just give me a second. I always think you got everything ready to go, and then it's all right, here we are. So the animal housing area, my little pointers petering out here. The animal housing part to the west is 279 feet by 105 feet, and it also has a 3-bay wash area over here to my left, and this is the tractor storage area for moving things and equipment in that area here. And then on this side is staff quarters and also mechanical rooms on this side. Now what's really interesting is if you look, there's 3 great entranceways here that come in, and that nice big looping driveway that comes in. So there's lots of room, so not everybody's jammed up unloading or loading, and that was something we heard a lot of. And it was a pretty hard pulling teeth on that one, wasn't it, Gary? And but I think we've certainly made that work. So this is our stall area. Could it be bigger? Yes, we're looking at about 140 stalls that can fit in there, but we're also looking at some exterior use, maybe with a tent setup, depending on the weather. But we've also got the warm-up ring to the left that could possibly be used for that too. That would depend on who was renting and what type of activity was being used. So the main ring is 245 feet by 130. That's this area. And then outside we've got a warm-up ring. It's not a roofed warm-up ring, but it will be constructed with this project. But these are the types of things that we've got the building. We can start to add the things that we need and get the money, and we can make this thing work. And that's the key. We gotta make it work, and then we can get the money to add on the more things that we need. But the key was to get this facility in the ground, and then we can spread out from there. Our seating capacity, it worked out to, let's see, the bleachers, and they seat 300 to 400 people in the bleacher area here, which again can still be added on. There's room to add that on. And then of course the entranceway, the lobby, and how that's laid out, you would come in this way, and meeting rooms, more meeting rooms here. This is this isn't the final drawing, I'm sorry, I couldn't get one, but the concession area is in this area here, which you'll see in one of the next pictures. The bathroom is very unique. It's basically a uni bathroom, but all the stalls are completely enclosed. Yes?
I don't think your pointer's working.
I know, it's, yeah, sorry. I'll try to point with my hand. So the bathroom area it's an open design, but the actual booths for the toilets and things are completely enclosed little rooms. So you can go in, they're completely, basically airtight, you can lock the door. So we don't have really a male-female bathroom setup in there with a central wash area, and then separate rooms for changing of children and the other things that go with it. This is also a mechanical room in this area and some of the staff area. So this is looking inside. This is how it's laid out. These are just drawings, of course. I mean, it could look totally different than this. But this is how the stalls would lay out. And again, really good access into the arena itself. Lots of access, so you're not bunched up. Lots of room, and lots of room internally to move animals without, again, not being crunched up, because we know how dangerous that can be. So I just put these in. These are some pictures of the first pour. The amount of concrete, there was a lot of debate whether we were going to go with a concrete floor or a dirt floor. It went back and forth, and in the end, we ended up with a concrete floor, which has its advantages too. And for an example, I was saying we were at the Ag Conference this week in Edmonton, which the location is just horrible. We could do something like that here. We have the room. It would be a much better place to do that. So the concrete floor works well for that. The footing, we could talk for half an hour just on the footing itself. We hired the right people to come in to do the footing on that concrete, so that that whatever the activity is, it's going to work for them. Again, in another meeting, we can go into some more detail on these things, but this is just kind of an overview today. So that just kind of shows the inside of the facility. So clear span everywhere. It's just great. And again, another picture there, and this is looking at it again as the concrete's been poured. We're now in. This is the main entranceway. This top one. You'll see that's the concession area, which can also be used. It's a multi-use room, but it's there. These are some of the meeting room, in the washrooms. I was telling you about the individual stalls. And again, inside, lots of height, big doors. So if we're doing any kind, again, ag activities, we can bring in equipment for trade shows. lots of room, lots of headroom, everything we need, and very well lit. The lighting in there is incredible. This is the front as you're coming in. Again, there's that concession area behind the glass. Lots of glass along the front, very welcoming. We really played that down. The original plan had this beautiful Taj Mahal entranceway, to which we said, no. We need to focus on the actual workings of the building. And in Strathcona, we do tend to get a little carried away with everything has to be fancy. And we're saying, no, we just need it to be workable and make it so that it does what it wants. This room here, that's the tractor room in here. Now this was really interesting. We were well ahead of schedule and we were right on budget. In fact, we had a little room to play. But then all of a sudden, we had to tie in the water. Well, sometimes it can take up to 2 years to get a water line underneath a rail line. Well, our staff, and I gotta give our senior staff credit for this one, they worked with CP, and CP stepped up, and we had this water line in before Christmas, and we didn't think we were gonna have it by spring. Because it's a quite a complex way they put water lines under railroad tracks, because there's a lot of constant movement. So the water's in, it's all hooked up, and our sewage lagoons are all done. Everything is hooked up, and that really brought us right up to our schedule. In fact, we're right on schedule and right on budget today. We're just waiting now. It'll be in the next few weeks. Bird Construction will be handing the keys over to us, and then we'll get in there. And one of the very first things we're going to do is get you guys out on some tours. We've been able to tour it from council, but you have to take this construction course, and you have to have all kinds of, it's just, I guess it's good, but it's really, to me, it was a little over the top. But once we take over, then it'll be much easier, and we'll either bring people, you can meet us there for tours, or we'll bus people, whatever it takes to get you out there, because I really want everybody to see this facility. So here's another just breakdown of the lobby area. Again, I think this thing's just pretty much had it. No, there we go. The washroom, mechanical room, the lobby, all the access into the main arena part. Meeting rooms back here. Again, this has changed. That's not part of that part of the drawing has changed. So this is looking at it inside. There's the entranceway there. So you would come in. This is the main lobby. Glass all the way along into the main arena, with plenty of access doors in and out. The washrooms back there, and looking at it from the other side. Again, the lobby, and then access into the arena. Again, all glass. This is the main way in, and then the washrooms back in there. So again, looking back, entryway, looking back the other way, the concession multi-use room, a large meeting room, and then looking into the arena there. So again, there's a whole separate parking lot for the front half, and anyone that's using the facility, everything's set up at the back. So again, the multi-use room, the meeting room, which also has access from the arena. You don't have to come into the lobby to go in. There's multiple ways in and out. So if you're there with your team and whatever you're doing, you can access in, use the room, and access back out without actually coming through these doors here. Again, looking from the lobby into the arena area itself. The bleachers and things are just to the right of that. But like I said, there's plenty of room for more bleachers. And again, the meeting room, the multi-use room, and then back into the main area. This is looking at the inside of the meeting room. So again, if you're there, it gives people a chance to get together, go over what they're doing. But we heard that a lot, that there needed to be a place that people could meet. And this is the inside of the meeting room that looks out into the arena on this side there. So there was access to the lobby and then access to the arena itself. So how that'll work is, we really don't know how that'll work. I mean, we want to support a lot of food trucks also, but if any organizations wanted to do the concession to raise money for whatever it was, pony clubs or figure skating, whatever, they could use this facility for that, sorry. And so it's just kind of a common multi-use area. Again, it wasn't in the original plan, but we really pushed to get that in there because it was critical that we get something in there. Can't just continually depend on catering trucks and food trucks, which are great, but man, they can be expensive, really expensive. And if you can get a group that can get you a hot dog or a hamburger and a pop for $5 over, $30 for a beef on a bun, I mean, the option will be there, but it can really add up if you're spending a few days there. So this is pretty much it. There's so much more to this as far as details, but I'm kind of hoping maybe if you ask some questions, I can answer them for you or certainly get you the
Just
answers.
before we ask the question, we've got a mic. We are recording this presentation, so by you using the mic means that our system picks it up. Question?
I have two questions. First being the sites for the parking, is there electrical ran to those?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I'll just get those information. I had all that.
And my second question being cost. This seems like quite a facility. I don't know if little 4-H clubs can afford this, so if you guys have thought of that.
Yes, on that, yes, we have. We've certainly considered that because, I mean, that's really what it's all about. It's a local building, and the last thing you want to do is exclude the taxpayers that are paying for it and cater out. Yes, we're depending on big shows and big people coming in here, but we also recognize the need for the 4-H clubs, the egg service groups, and all the other things in the community that people do, whether it's equine, dogs, whatever. We want to make sure that our pricing is affordable for everyone. So we're really looking at that because again, what use is it if nobody uses it because we can't afford it? And it's like we always get beat up with this, certainly as councillors, but municipalities. They say, well, these things never make any money. Well, it really isn't designed to make money. I mean, sometimes something like Millennium Place, it almost pays for itself completely. So the more you use it, the more it'll pay for it. But what we're doing is we're creating services for our people. Just like we have arenas for skating, and we have swimming pools, and we have parks, and we have all these other things. I mean, even our roads. I mean, the roads don't pay, yet we use them all the time. So a facility like this is just another opportunity for our residents to use because we're catering, because we know that we have a lot of people that certainly in the equine industry, I mean, we're constantly, Strathcona is constantly banging on this, the horse capital of Canada, and yet we really didn't have anything to back it up. So that was part of standing up to that, but also having something for that segment of our population to use. It's not always about hockey, and I know that that's it's important to a lot of us, but this is also important to us too. I'm sorry, I'll get you those numbers, okay? Was there any, okay, up at the top there, Gary, I'll just.
I was just wondering about the numbers of livestock, like, what are you forecasting for the numbers?
I don't know.
Like, what would be your limit to amount of animals being able to attend on the building?
Well, I guess it would, I mean, it's kind of a hard one to answer because we've designed that parking lot that's fully equipped with power, which I'll get you those numbers. Because we heard that a lot, that people come in with their trailers, they might be there for a short period of time and they gotta move on. So we've really developed that side. The animal housing side, we would have what's internal, I guess, if you counted, say, 140 stalls, but from what I understand, some people might rent 2 or 3 boxes for other things, so that would limit livestock. There could be outside storage of livestock also, or people, again, keeping their livestock in the parking lot area. Is that helping, or?
Yeah, and the other question is, for that many amount of animals or the limited amount of animals that can be in there, will there be a plan for possibly extending on the wash bays? Because I'm not sure 3 wash bays and that many stalls or projection on that stalls would handle that much.
Yes, our plan is, if everything goes well and this succeeds, this project, and the more we use it, then that gives us the opportunity to say, you know, we add on. And the design of this building was designed that you could just incrementally add on to it. And that's something we would look at. But again, I have to go back, we only had so much money, and this is all we could get for that. But again, if this works out the way I think it is, and most people do, we will be able to add on and put in those extra wash bays, and a lot of those amenities like closed-in outside rings, more closed-in animal housing, all of that is there for the future.
And you mentioned about cost, like, okay, the building itself not making any money. But the biggest problem, I believe, as an average show person, is it's not so much buildings making money, it's actually the people with memberships or clubs that are struggling to pay for things like this and make money.
Right.
They don't really make a lot of profits or anything off here, most times breaking even or breaking below even, because it's really hard to get or encourage people right now
Right.
to
No.
attend things now.
Yeah, no, and we understand that. Again, like I said, you build a facility, well, you have to, that's where you have to compensate for that. You can't just hand out ridiculous costs to use the facility because no one would use it. And so we have to absorb that. And that's where I was saying we kind of get beat up sometimes. People say, well, yeah, you built this thing for $60 million, and now it's costing us $2.5 million a year to run it.
That's right, but clubs and groups can't even afford.
That's right.
to do it.
So
That's
it's-
what happened to Winoka quite a bit. It's just too expensive for them to use.
Right.
The other factor is, I know what you're getting at, build it and they will come. But in this case, we are struggling, even keeping our groups alive and memberships alive. And so I think that's what a lot of it is, if the groups themselves can't find a profit margin somewhere, it's gonna be very difficult to utilize such a beautiful building.
Yes. No, thanks for the question. You're absolutely right. And it is something that we certainly hear, and hopefully we can make that work out on the pricing. And I think we will. We have to.
Other questions? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
What's the target date for being open for business?
We've got a soft opening. We're hoping sometime probably around May, maybe June, and then we want to have a big kickoff in August, which will, be the flat out, everything's done, ready to go. But we really would like to get a spring opening here with something going on. So again, we're just waiting. We're going to take possession here probably within the next week or two, and then we'll really start to ramp up that soft opening, we call it. But the sooner the better.
I have a question.
I guess it has to do with the decision to go with a concrete base. And I know the idea of footing is a really deep issue, no pun
No,
intended.
yeah.
but, I guess my question is, whenever I hear concrete going into a facility that's ag directed, I get a little nervous that it's not, and I know it's supposed to be a multiple use facility, but I guess my question is, in the off season, when the shows aren't coming in, is this gonna be set up as an equine ag facility? Is there gonna be an arena there with acceptable footing to bring in 4-H clubs to work in the winter when they don't have an indoor arena? Or is it gonna be a figure skating rink?
No, and that again was part of the debate, because the county said, well, can we make this kind of like a recreational area? And yes, Recreation Parks and Culture will run the facility, but we said, no, this is an agriculture facility. So I'm hoping that that floor is in almost all the time. It is going to be designed that it could be taken out in the case of say, some kind of activity like a conference or something like that. But overall, we're looking to keep that floor in.
So in the winter time, like these small
Ab-
clubs can come
absolutely,
in and work
yes.
their horses?
Yeah, absolutely, yes, yeah.
Anybody else? I think Glenn is sticking around.
Yes, yeah, no, anybody got anything, I'll try to answer again if it was very quick. But we can certainly come back and we can zero down on some other things. The footing was another big topic and how that all laid out. But again, I want to thank everybody for coming out. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to talk to me, or Corey's here too. And we'll try to answer them, or we'll definitely get you the answers.
Thank you.
Great, thank you guys. Sorry. And I'll get those numbers for you then. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
My sheet's there.
Sorry about that.
It's been quite an experience, quite a journey getting this facility up and going. And as I said, Glenn was really a driving force. There were times when we thought, Archie and I thought, this is gone, this is dead. But Glenn really helped keep it alive, so that was great. The whole experience was much like home. I was told by more county staff, and I can recall, we know what's best for you. Just go along with us. So it's been lively. We're gonna move right along. A lot of things that are happening around us, affect the way we do business, are also changing. And the law is changing as well. And we're very fortunate today to have Cam Prouse, not only is a good guy to have around, but he's also legal counsel and a practicing lawyer. He's going to talk to you for just a minute about the whole concept of stables and the law.
I told Gary that my presentation will probably take 2, maybe 3 minutes. And what I'm hoping is that there will be some questions that will help flesh it out. I am Cam Prouse, I'm a lawyer. My family moved to the county in 1978, and we moved to our farm in 2003. I've been interested in horses since watching The Lone Ranger, Roy Rogers, all the John Wayne movies, of course. We got our first horse in 1998 when my eldest daughter was able to convince me that she should take riding lessons. And as I say, now we have a farm and horses, and we do a little bit of boarding. And I got invited by Gary to become involved with the Stable Owners Association. I'd had contact with Gary over the years about the continuing efforts to get the facility designed, approved, and built, and so I'm quite excited to see that it's actually coming to fruition. I can't wait to go out and see it in May or June when the tours get started. One of the purposes of the association is education. And part of education is somebody standing up at a lectern and telling you things, but part of education is being able to pick up the phone or send a text or an email to somebody who has experience, somebody who's been through an issue before and can help with that. And that's one of the things that the association has been doing, and we've had a number of contacts from people who've run into problems or issues that they haven't run into before, and they don't know how to deal with them. And it's everything from how do I keep my waterers from freezing to I had a boarder, I still have their gear, I still have their horse, but they stopped paying me, and I'm feeding the animal, and I don't want to keep feeding it, what do I do? My first involvement with what was then the Livery Stable Keepers Act was when I was an articling student. We had a client named Donsdale Stables, and they ran into some problems where somebody had ordered some horses with them and then just abandoned them and stopped paying. The Livery Stable Keepers Act has been replaced by a new act called the Animal Keepers Act. And it applies to more than just livery stables now. It applies to anybody who boards or feeds or cares for an animal owned by somebody else. And so it doesn't have to be a horse or a mule anymore. It applies to any kind of an animal. So if somebody leaves their alpaca with you, then you've got the Animal Keepers Act that can help you out if you run into a situation where somebody stops paying. The act is really it's a simple act, and it's quite straightforward, and it's geared to help the stable owner or the animal keeper without having to go through a long legal process, an expensive legal process. Because when they were drafting the act, they apparently realized that not everybody can afford to hire a lawyer. And if your claim is $2,000 or $3,000 or $500 because somebody stopped paying, then of course it makes no economic sense for you to try and hire a lawyer to deal with it. So what they've said is, you have a lien, and a lien is a claim, and your claim is in first place, and it starts as soon as somebody owes you money for care and board of their animal. The lien takes priority over anybody else who has a claim on it, and you're entitled to hang on to, whether it's a horse or a mule or a horse trailer or a saddle or any or all of the above, you're entitled to keep them until you get paid. But you don't have to keep them forever. 14 days is the magic number. Yeah, 14 days is all. If somebody's late for 14 days, you can actually sell their animal and or their gear to get yourself paid. Now then, there is a bit of a process that you have to go through as far as giving appropriate notice under the act. It's not complicated. You sell by public auction, but that doesn't mean that you have to bring in an auction company, and it doesn't mean that you have to cart all the gear and or the horse to an auction site. You can actually have the auction on your own property. But you don't have to have an auction either. If you can find a better way to get a better price, then you can do that as well, as long as it's commercially reasonable. And I had one situation a few years ago, I guess it's more than a few now, it's a number of years ago. The claim exceeded $100,000 because somebody had left about 50 horses and then stopped paying for them. And you can imagine the cost to feed 50 horses on an ongoing basis. Well, we were able to actually sell some of the horses. They were actually pedigreed horses and purebred horses. we were actually able to sell them, and then we were able to convince the registries that they should register the new owners as the legal owners of the horses. So they were actually able to sell the horses for, one of them went for $10,000, one of them went for $15,000, and we were able to actually recover all of the money that was owed to the stable owner at the time. So there's a lot of power in the act, and as I said earlier, it's designed to help the stable owner, so the stable owner isn't the one who ends up taking the beating. It even applies if somebody parks their horse trailer on your land, and maybe they're paying you, $25 a month or $15 a month, or maybe you're doing it as a favor while you board their horse. If they stop paying for the horse, you gotta lean on the trailer as well. So there's a lot of power there. And that's about as simple as the act is. Does anyone have any questions?
What if the horse isn't worth what they owe you and it's just like 35 years old and 1 foot in the grave?
Well, one of the alternatives that you would have would be to sell it to the renderer. And there are lots of people who simply wouldn't do that because they couldn't. But that would be an option that would be open to the stable owner.
And would it be an option to just have the horse euthanized? Or
Uh,
you have to sell the horse?
I think that if you had a public auction and somebody bought the horse for $5, they could euthanize it. If you had a public auction and nobody bought the horse, then you could bid on the horse, because you're the one who's owed the money.
Yeah.
So you bid on the horse, and you could then have the horse euthanized because you would then own the horse.
And then is there other recourse to recoup the lost money?
Sorry,
Like, so if the horse is not worth with how much they owe you, is there something else you can do then to recoup the missing money?
absolutely. If they still owe you money after the auction, you still have a claim against them, you could still go after them in small claims court.
Okay. Thank you.
Just hope the horse comes with a trailer.
I can, I've been through the Stable Keepers Act on the old one a couple of times, unfortunately. The biggest important thing is to make sure you post it, and that when you bring in an order, that you explain it.
You actually don't have to post it anymore.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's even better. 'Cause
Yeah, you don't have to post it anymore, although I would suggest that it's still a good idea. And you don't have to explain it to anybody, it's the law, and everybody is presumed to know the law whether they actually do or not. So, you're not prohibited because you forgot to explain it to someone.
Oh, that's great.
Any other questions?
Hi, I'm just wondering about required notice. So you have a horse, then you have all this stuff, is there a required notice period or something to let the owner know, hey, this is what I'm gonna do? Or in particular, when you have horses that are worth a lot, sometimes there's multiple owners as well. So maybe you only deal with Sally, but Joe and Frank also own part. Would there be required notice to those other 2 owners?
The notice would be required, and off the top of my head, I don't recall whether you'd have to give notice to all of the owners. It seems to me that you have to give notice to the person who brought the animal to you for board. You certainly have a claim against each of the owners for all of the money that's owed to you. I'd have to take a quick look at the act to determine whether you actually have to give notice to all of the owners. That would probably be the advice I would probably give is, if you have their contact information, even if you're not required to, do it, because there's a much better chance somebody will get hold of you and write a check, because they'll say, I didn't know that Billy wasn't paying the bill.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So you have a boarder that has a horse with you and they're, maybe like 3 or 4 months in arrears. And they've expressed an interest in selling the horse because they can't afford the horse. But they have not taken any action to prepare the horse to be sold. They haven't had any ads put out for the horse. They haven't had anybody come and look at the horse. At what point, like this act, would get the owner of the stable the amount owing for the horse, and the owner of the stable is happy? And has the person that's left those stabling bills in arrears waived the possibility of ever getting their asking price for that horse? Like, at what point can you just sell the horse for what it's worth? Because I know you can't sell the horse for more money than what's owed.
Actually, you can sell the horse for more money than what's owed. If you're selling it pursuant to the act, then any money that's left goes back to them after you pay all of the expenses of the sale.
Right, and now you're acting as an agent on a sale that you didn't want to be an agent on.
Actually, you're not an agent, you simply have some obligations
Right,
under the act with regard to the funds, and there's a legal difference between being somebody's agent
right.
and simply having a responsibility to refund the excess money that you might realize.
So other than just being kind enough to explain to them that all you need is your board money and you can sell their horse, you don't really have to be accountable for that extra funds.
Well, you're accountable for the extra funds, you have to pay them extra money you have to pay back to the horse owner.
Right, but if you don't, if you just sell that horse for what's owing,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I have
Which
seen,
is really all, as the barn manager that's representing the barn owner, I just wanna get the barn owner their money.
yes, and I have seen situations where the person who is owed the money, the stable owner, bids at the auction and bids up to the amount that they are owed, and they take ownership of the horse, and then 3 months later, they sell the horse for more money. And they're entitled to do that because it's their horse at that point.
Right, yeah, well, that's a totally different situation, but just in the interest of getting the funds that are owed, you could sell that horse for just what's owed.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Just to add to that question,
Is there a time, holding time that owner, if they purchase that horse through auction, like you were just explaining, is there a holding period that they have to have that horse before it can be listed? Like, can't list it 24 hours later, 48 hours later? Is there a holding period of X number of days after the auction?
there's nothing in the act about a holding period. Once you buy it at auction, you become the owner. You could sell it 5 minutes later.
Okay, my question's is gonna open up a whole new can of worms then. As far as your board agreement with your clients, what kind of information, such as this that we're talking about, should you default on payment? Like, what kinds of things should be in your board agreement that you have all your clients sign up front so that they're aware, and that will protect the stable owner? That's a loaded question, sorry.
That's a big question. And it could have an expansive answer, but if I'm not mistaken, Gary, do we have a sample agreement on the website?
Don't think we do, but we have many sample agreements.
Yeah. Really, you don't need a written board agreement to be able to enforce your lien under the act. The moment that somebody places an animal with you, and they're in arrears for payment, it triggers the 14-day period to start for you to be able to sell the animal. If you, and what you'll see is that most board agreements call for board to be payable on the first day of each month. So if you're not paid by the 15th of the month, then the act is triggered, but your lien starts as soon as you're not paid on the first day of the month. That would probably be the single most important thing to have in your board agreement, is that board is due on the first day of each month. The other things you want to do in your agreement, you want to make sure that you minimize the opportunities for people to argue that they didn't understand what charges were going to be. So you put in the amount for board, you put in the amount for training if there's going to be training, you put in any extras. You know, we charge an extra $1,000 a month to blanket your horse. We charge an extra $500 a day to give your horse vitamins. Make sure you itemize all of those things so that you minimize the possibility of misunderstanding or claimed misunderstandings later. And the more of those things that you can specify, the easier your life becomes later when you get into a fight. Some people will simply walk away and they don't care anymore. Some people, you'll be surprised to hear this, some people just like to fight.
Okay, so the way I'm understanding it, you're saying that it's 14-day, you start with a 14-day notice, and then from there, then the Library Act applies. But normally from experience says that, please remember everybody here, you can do that. But the owner will come back at you, well, some of them come back at you. And it's most important to the court system that they know that you did your due diligence to make sure that that was clarified. That, you know, the terms of why the animal was there. The other fact is to support that. The judges will want to know that you made that clear to the persons that own the horse and didn't pay. And the other thing is, stable owners are allowed to go after all the costs that involve that as well. So it's not just a matter of what they didn't pay me for the horse, but what all the applications and all the things do, you can get awarded with too.
Well, and when I alluded earlier to the costs, I was thinking of the costs of the sale. So if, for example, if you bring in an auctioneer and the auctioneer charges 20%, that's a cost of the sale. You have to publish a notice. If it costs money to publish the notice, that's a cost, and that goes on top of what you're entitled to recover. The whole idea is you're not out of pocket any money, assuming that the animals and or gear are worth more than the total amount of money that's owed to you. So ideally, there actually is money left over, and you write a small check back to the animal owner. But the object of the act is that the stable keeper won't be out money.
Hi, so I'm going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate here a little bit. So there is, some boarders do have excuses for not paying for their animals. I do know there's a 14-day grace on it, but there could be some factors in why the owner has not paid. Like maybe they've been in a severe accident where they're incapacitated, where they cannot function beyond at the moment to pay. Like, is there been a surgery, or they're again intensive care? Another thing could be an issue where I've had friends who have struggled with dark-hearted stables that would say that the person had not paid their fees, selling the horse for their own profit, is there some sort of way that the owner of the animal is somewhat protected under this act too? Because there could be a factor that there's a reason why they can't pay for the animal.
This is what I said before, is most people would rather not have to involve a lawyer, but if you run into a situation like that, then unfortunately, that's really all you've got. You need to get some legal help at that point in time, because it's gone beyond what the Animal Keepers Act is going to help out the situation, because the act is very much in favor of the stable owner. And so if there are issues between the owner and the stable owner and the animal owner, then unfortunately you probably need legal help at that point.
Just a suggestion, because I do feel you have due diligence to let people know what the rules are and so on. What we've done at our stable is we have a Google Drive folder, and it's called Client Info. And anything like the Stable Keepers Act, our price lists, what the feed contents are of things, our waivers, premise ID number, all that, it's all in there. And people get tired of me saying, well, it's in the folder. But it's easier on me, and I think people do appreciate it, because anything they want to know really is in there.
And that's actually really, really solid advice, because the more you communicate, the less opportunity there is for even a difficult person to become difficult.
Just one more quick question, and I'm going back because I'm old. And what do you consider appropriate for public notice? I don't think anybody reads a newspaper anymore, unfortunately. And like public notice in what way? Posting it at the facility? Posting it, I hate the thought, posting it on Facebook? What is considered appropriate public notice and fair?
Well, the act actually specifies exactly what your obligations are with regard to notice to the owner. If you know who the owner is, then you deliver a notice of your intended sale and the amount that's owed. You deliver that to them personally, or send it by registered mail, or if you have a fax number for them that they gave you, you can fax it there. If they gave you an email address, you can give them notice by sending it to the email address that you gave you. And in addition, if the animal is a horse, or if it's cattle, a cow or a bull, or anything in between, then you have to give notice to the minister as well. If you don't know who the owner is, then 14 days before the sale, you publish a notice in the newspaper that is local. So the Sherwood Park News, for example, would be one, or the Edmonton Journal or the Edmonton Sun, if they still take those kinds of things. And it's pretty much that simple.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was way more questions than I anticipated.
All stable owners are looking for revenue streams. And probably one of the best revenue streams, although the most complex revenue stream that will keep you gray-haired and busy the most, is having a productive lesson program running out of your facility. I've asked Archie Hurst to come and talk to us a little bit today and explain a little bit about his program. It's one of the best that I've ever seen. Just the way he runs it, some of his policies. And he's going to talk a little bit too about a new organization. They're not just in town, but they're around who are renting arenas and doing public lesson programs. Archie?
I don't know how many people want to know about lesson program, but here goes. How many people actually do give lessons? How many that are trainers do lessons? It's not included in your training. Lessons are lessons and training is the other, unless you specify exactly what you're doing. So if you decide you want to do a lesson program, not necessarily do you have to do it yourself. But you want to also, if you're thinking about it, you want to know how big it are you going to get. What do you want? What level are you willing to teach? Your commitment level, that's another one. That's a big one in the lesson program is that, you know, consistency is a big thing. Can you achieve industry standard? That's becoming a big issue more and more in showing horses, or you're doing lesson programs or whatever. You do need to have some accreditation. You just can't open up and say, I'm a riding instructor. And what are your goals? That's the big thing. And this is what I'm going to do now is you are the first person that introduces them to the equine world. So make it a positive one. All right, so it's how do you maintain your clientele? Pardon? I might you pardon? So what is your business plan? You know, one thing is that we gotta protect ourselves. So the number one thing is insurance. You've got to have some liability insurance because you are liable when you do give a riding lesson program. And a lot of times the insurance companies want to know what accreditation you have. And so that's one of the things. If you're an Equine Canada coach that's recognized, they will give you some preferred costs on your insurance. If you're rented space, are you sure the owner has proper insurance? And additional insurance on your own policy. If you're having somebody come in that's going to do lessons at your place, you need to be listed on their policy to protect yourself, okay? And boundaries, you've got to set out boundaries, and that's code of conduct. What you will accept, what you will not accept. And then also protect your personal life. So that's a big thing, is that I belong to a trainers network in the United States with instructors and everything, and a lot of times they're going, I'm done, I'm burned out, I just can't make it pay, I'm losing money, people are too much hassle. And you know, that's why sometimes the equine industry is diminishing, is because out of all the people here, there weren't very many people that put up their hands for lessons. So that's a big problem in the equestrian world. And then how do you get started? Well, you need some lesson horses. So the thing is that, are you gonna buy them? Are you gonna use your own? Or are you going to lease a lesson horse? Are you gonna have somebody donate that horse? And the best way to make the most money is to have somebody donate their horse. But the other thing, when you donate the horse, you've got to turn around and have a legal agreement so that that person is not liable. Nobody wants to donate something in goodwill and then have it Advertising is another thing that a lot of people have problems with. There's lots of times you can put out, you know, at the feed stores or anywhere where horse people go, you can have that. You can do Facebook. Personally, right now, I don't advertise. I just am listed in Google, and that's it. It comes along. And yeah, word of mouth is another one, but that's a dangerous one because it can be positive or negative. So, you know, it just depends on the person's experience. When are people available? Schedule lesson times. You know, you got to understand that when they're free and they're coming to your place, you're not free. So you're not gonna have from 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock you're not gonna have that time unless you cancel. And that's a tough thing to do. And you need to get legal documents. I have a release form, there's Equine Canada has a release form, and no person, I do not accept any money, I don't accept any responsibility until such times as the release form is done, contact information is there, listing allergies, listing different things like that you need for their health. And in my lesson program, I sell a package of 10 riding lessons, that's the smallest one we do, and we charge up front. And they're non-returnable, non-refundable, and the lesson program goes on. You commit that you're there, they have to commit. And if there's not 24 hours notice, they get charged. So the thing is that that's just the way it is. You get people to commit, and if they can't commit to 10 riding lessons one time a week, then, you know, they're not very interested. And I give them 12 weeks to complete 10 riding lessons. So that's the invoicing, you know, that's for sure. You know, you make sure that you've got your lessons written down every time they arrive, or that they were late, or if anything happened to that child while you were giving lessons, you document it. Everything is documented. And make sure you use the use of a mentor. We all have the same problems, and you know, sometimes I was listening to the last part about the stable owners, and you know, we all have the same problems. So that's a big thing that you need to do. Are we on to maintaining your clientele? Everybody has a startup and everything is wonderful, but do you get them to sign again? It's just like when I ask people when they go on a holiday, would you go back? And they say, no, I wouldn't go back to that place, but I'd try something else. Well, that's exactly what's gonna happen with other people. When they ask by word of mouth, would you go back for riding lessons? You never know where it's coming from. And if you have an open lesson program, sometimes I have people that just walk into the barn and they want to turn around and sign up for lessons. They didn't call, they didn't text, they just showed up. So you have to be company ready. So to maintain a lesson program, you need to keep the students safe, number one. And they've got to have fun. And if that part is done, then they'll learn. You teach them what they need to know. And you need to make sure your communication skills are wide open. You cannot have a problem that you can't talk about. You're always there. And, you know, teach the student to listen to the horse. Most of them don't. They just say stupid horse. And so lots of times I ask that student, what's that horse telling you? Do you have any idea? And sometimes when I give a lesson, I let the rider ride, and I start commentating on the horse and what he's thinking. Oh my God, I wished you'd even out your stirrups. Carrying one side is just too hard. Oh my God, get off my mouth. You know, and sometimes when you do that and you make it funny, they start to get into it and understanding. They buy into the program. And make sure that they achieve their goals. Like, what do you want? What do you want to learn here? If they don't have goals for it, how can you get them there? You can't. You're just gonna assume. And the thing is that you need to make sure that you're credible. Everything that you say, you would say again. And I've had some kids that have come and they're disrespectful. And I tell them, look, one more time and you will get off that horse and you will walk that horse for the remainder of your lesson, and then you will leave and don't darken my door again. You do that once, you don't have to do it again. And where do you want to go from here? You want to grow? Number one thing, if you're growing, bigger is not always better. Matter of fact, that's when you burn yourself out. I can just do one more lesson, I can do one more day, I can do whatever. And you've got to keep enjoying what you do. I run a training stable as well, and I do lessons, and you know, sometimes people have different expectations than what I have. And so what I'll do is have a communication thing and say, you know, I'm finding that, you know, we're not on the same page. You know, your expectations and my expectations, they're not meshing. So the thing is that I want you to be successful. So am I meeting your expectations? And if I'm not, then find happiness elsewhere. Because the thing is that if they're not happy, they're not going to stay. So that makes it easier on you, so you can continue to enjoy the job you do. And are you happy where you're at? Do you want to have students go on? Can you take those students further? And if you can't go further, then send it to someone who can. That's the worst thing you could be doing, is just keep holding that child back or that rider back. Let them advance, because they're going to stay in the industry if they do. Number one. And then, if you think you're going to make a lot of money, you're not. You know, you are giving back to the industry. That's the way I look at it. The industry's been very good to me. I had people that helped me when I started out, and I was very fortunate to get a lot of good help. And for people that want to stay in the industry, I'll do anything. That's number one. If you own your facility and you don't want to teach, give someone else the opportunity. You know, no matter what, I'm going to talk about a program that's at our stable. And it's very simple, and it's wonderful. And the thing is that make sure at all times you protect yourself. Because it's nothing worse than somebody coming in and you're giving a lesson. It could be the neighbor kid down the road that wants to come and take a lesson from you. Do you sign a release form? Do you have the insurance to do it? Because if you do take that lesson and that child does get hurt and it ends up being paralyzed, they are going to sue you. They have to, because that's the kind of thing that they have to look after, is that child's life. So the thing is you better have that insurance policy there. And for myself, when I've been teaching so long and I do 60 lessons a week, when someone's just doing one lesson, I can go back and say, these are the kind of students that I had and I never had a problem, touch wood. And then the thing is that when you're just the one person, you actually are more liable than people understand. So the thing is that that's one thing that you need to do, and you need to document everything, especially incidents. If I have a child fall off, I don't say, oh, he's fine. I always tell them, you know, I think the fall was good, but I suggest you take him to the hospital. The parents have the right to say, you know, I don't think it's no problem, but at least I make that suggestion. I am not a doctor. I have first aid and that kind of stuff, but just strange things can happen. Now, I was doing an awful lot of lessons, and I'm getting up there in age, and I was approached by this organization called Clip Clop. I don't know if you've seen any of the bus signs that say there's a riding program there, or on the highway there's one there. They started out in Calgary, and they have 250 students there. That's how big it got. And they have franchised this company, and they own the rights. But the thing is that they come into my facility. They have listed me as in their insurance policy. They're all legal documents are all there. Everything else. I cut back maybe about 15 lessons a week, and by the time that I board their horses for them, and by the time they pay the arena rental and everything, I'm not losing any money. I'm actually making some. So the thing is that that's where, you know, if you have a arena time to give, and you help somebody out to do it, and they're qualified, why not? We need to get more people involved. And in Clip Clop, they call it walk and shuffle. That's all they do. They've got horses that are donated. They look after them very, very well. The kids come, they have TAs with each child, and they have what they call buddy horses that are basically mannequins. And they teach the child how to put a halter on without buddying the horse. They teach them how to put a bridle on, how to put a saddle on, how to mount properly, you know, this sort of thing, and then they're taught how to steer, but they're all supervised by TAs. And those TAs get an opportunity to get a free lesson after so many hours. So it works out really well, and you know, it's something where I can reach more people in less time. I may have 10 kids under the age of 10, but they have 30, 40 that are under the age of 10. And they're reaching out, they're giving them a positive experience. It's not a compete. Their lesson program does not compete with mine. Actually, it's helped, because the thing is that I tell them, are you wanting to do a recreational program, or are you wanting to do a competitive program? I do the competitive. They do the recreational. And so the thing is a lot of them will say, oh, I want to compete. I want them to compete. Well, then fine, you're entering in a different area. And so therefore you can fast track that even faster than you can if you're on the recreational program and trying to convince them to move on to the competitive side. So it's non-compete. Whenever those kids get that they want more, they just walk on over to my place. And it's in the same place, we just sign documents, and it works out very well. But it encourages your stable to be busier. It really does. And it's a wonderful program. We watched it for a year, and then we agreed to bring it into this area. Where it's gonna go from there, I don't know. But the thing is that if you have someone that is good with kids and knows the basics of safety, they are great instructors. They really are. I have some TAs that are working in Clip Clop, and they're my students that I've taught, and they're now earning time. The only thing is that the owner of this says, you know, your kids are way more advanced than this Click Clop program, so we're going to pay them some money so they can continue taking lessons from you. And they pay it to us, not to the child. So that part works out really well. If anybody needs any questions at all, pretty simple.
Any questions for Archie?
Just so people know too, EC is definitely your Canadian body, but CHA, if you're doing beginner and intermediate lessons, also gives breaks on insurance as well within your organization. It's a little bit more obtainable and easier to obtain if you have a basic knowledge already. If you're not going the competitive route. If you have questions about that, I'm actually your Alberta rep for CHA, so please ask me and connect with me on that. As we're just learning and growing with the lesson programs.
Yeah, especially that they work out very well and it's very quick. I think it's a day or two.
5 days, maybe.
5 days?
5 days.
That you get tested.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
5 days.
good.
Yeah.
I haven't been involved in that one. I was brought in from Equine Canada to help on the show end and on the saddle seat program.
Yeah.
So I never ventured that way, but I do know several people that are showing and teaching lessons that have that accreditation. The one thing I ask you is if you have that accreditation and you take them to an Equine Canada show, are you allowed to coach?
Yeah, we have to have a level 2 or higher, and we're in the process of working with Equine Canada to figure that process out as provincial reps across the country right now.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you, I'm an Equine Canada coach and I certify people. And you know what? I think that program could be so much better. And you know, you're always doing something with them. They don't leave you alone. And so that part gets up there a lot. Anybody else with a question?
We're done.
Well, if you have any questions or whatever, you can Google me. I help a lot of, I mentor a lot of other riding instructors all the time, and I love doing it. So I just wish there were more people that would dedicate some time to the lessons, because that's where our industry will grow. That's the grassroots. And if you don't do that, it's gonna die. We don't have grandpas, we don't have aunts and uncles that the kids can go to the farm. This is what this Click Clop program is doing, because they're safe, they can come, they have no clue as to what they're doing, they don't know the front end from the back end, but they get them introduced into it, and it's starting to roll over. So, which I think is a good thing. So, well, thank you for your time, and
You know, we're inundated with social media these days. So much is coming from all directions and so fast. We thought it was really appropriate to introduce you to a lady who is going to solve all our social media problems. I had the opportunity to sit down over a cup of coffee with her in Burke a while back, and just her passion for social media and her passion for getting it right was really made a remarkable impression on me. So I'm going to introduce you to Kat. Come on in, Kat. I'm going to let you tell your own story about who you are and where you come from, because it's a fascinating one.
little shorter than the rest. Hi everybody, I'm Kat. I've been running an online marketing agency for over a decade now. I'm not a horse owner, I'm not a stable owner, but I am very passionate about why you are here today. I'm a believer that after pandemic, so many of my friends, so many of my acquaintances who owned horses, who owned the horse stables, have been stuck in the impossible place. And hearing to them suffer made me want to help them even more. And that's how I got connected actually to Stable Owners Association. If you're not a member, you definitely should be. This is how you collaborate, come together, and create real change. So I really want to share with you today some of the expertise that I bring when it comes to helping small businesses in general, but specific to you, to each one of you. Some of you have horse boarding, some of you have lessons, training, and probably many, many other services that you offer depending on what it is that you do. This will be applicable to you because there's 3 essential online things that you all should be having as a business owners, as people who offer services to other people. Number 1 is you should have a website, okay? When it comes to the website, it seems like such a minuscule thing that makes no difference, but this is your billboard that's there 24/7, that people will be able to find you and see what services you offer. If you offer great services, because you should include some testimonials, some case studies, and really learn about you. At the end of the day, anything online, whether it's social media, marketing, whatever it is, all it is us connecting human to human. Unfortunately, if I were to connect to every single person in this room, it's probably going to take me a year, right? That's a long time. And same for you, if you were to connect to every single person who's interested in getting to know what it is that you do, it's going to take you a very long time, and that's not the purpose of you having a stable. The purpose of you is actually providing the services, right? There's some handouts coming around. I wanted you to just come home with something that you can take a look at after. I know that when it comes to technology and marketing, it can be a lot, and it can be pretty boring. So this is just something for you guys to take a look at later on, and it is what I'm covering right now. Now, on your website, you should really have, obviously, the services that you offer and a little bit of your story at a very, very minimum. There's plenty of places where you can do it very affordably. It doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. You don't have to hire a professional. Nowadays, it's the matter of clicking a few buttons and just typing out the information that you want to provide. But that is a crucial information you should have. Now here's why I pulled this up. As not a stable owner, but having a lot of friends who board their horses, this is one of the services I know people provide. The first thing that they do, as especially a generation that I'd say 35 years old and under, which is next generations coming in who will be your clients, right, is they go on Google and they type in horse boarding near me or Edmonton, Sherwood Park, Strathcona, right? They're typing in the service that they're looking for. If your listing is not there, they will not find you. You just lost a potential client that you didn't even have a chance to have a conversation with or show what it is that you could create for them. Same for horse lessons. It's one of those things that people look for, and word of mouth, of course, is absolutely best way to get a client because they already love you when they come to you, and it really minimizes the amount of clients you can actually get, okay? This will really support you creating a Google My Business listing, and again, on the handout, you will find a little bit of information on how you can do that, right? I wanted to give you the how as well. Some of you will need to create it, some of you just need to go back and really look at what does it say. Does it say that you provide the services that you provide? So many stables, when I looked, it was not clear to me whether they do boarding, or they do lessons, or they are a wrench, whatever that might mean. It's just all kind of popping up, and I have no idea if they provide the service I'm looking for. So even looking at the results here, you can see there's results coming up on the left side, and then you can see a map. Oh, I typed in horse boarding Edmonton. There's not that many, but I bet you anything, there's a lot more of you. That seems like not many at all. Like this is maybe 20 places. Where's the rest of the horse boarding places? That just shows to me how many of you just don't have this optimized, how many of you don't list everything about yourself. And so as you go and claim your own listing, whether you create a new one or it might already exist because someone else went and was kind enough to say, hey, there's a place right here in the middle of nowhere where I board my horse, because your clients have that ability too. You can go and claim it by using your phone number or email address, and then you can add more information. And like I said, services, services, services. You really want to focus on the things that people would be searching for. And really encourage your clients to leave reviews. And I know it might be scary. I remember me starting my own business and asking someone to leave a review on Google and not knowing, is it going to be positive? Or this is going to be something I'm going to just have to cancel the whole Google My Business listing about. The really easy way for you to create a little bit of a filter is perhaps get them to fill out a feedback form first, like one of those manual ones. And then you can ask them if it is positive to go and put it on the Google. So that really supported me in two things. Number one is making sure that the reviews people are leaving are positive. So if you look up my business, you'll see there's not very many, but they're all 4 or 5 star reviews. I don't have a 1-star reviews. Number two is it actually supported me in understanding what am I missing when it comes to having conversations with my clients and delivering a service. Don't know about you, I'm not perfect. I wish I delivered a service excellent every single time, but it just doesn't work like that. Sometimes it's the small things, as in forgetting to send them an invoice on time, or maybe I forgot that I promised them a discount and then it didn't show on the invoice, but they paid it anyway instead of telling me. Or maybe they didn't like this one page I created on the website. And that feedback form is the single way for me to start that conversation and have that conversation with someone before it goes public. So really consider creating some version of a feedback form in your businesses so that you can gather that information. And sometimes it's literally adding 5 minutes to your lesson to say something to your clients. Now let's move on to why I actually was invited here. Social media. Who here loves social media? Oh yeah, okay. My fans are here, there's 5 of you. That's awesome. It's about 5% of the audience, maybe 7. And I understand, and here's what I want to tell you. For those of you who don't like social media, are not comfortable with it, or you're just indifferent. The reason why some of those industries, and I actually listed some, that are dwindling down is farming, some trade companies that are family owned, right? Those smaller ones, the local retailer stores getting replaced with Circle K's, right? You have the local auto shops. Usually you would call your local mechanic to fix anything, and now it's all those franchises. All of those industries are dwindling down, and a big part of that is we just get fed different media. When was the last time you saw a really great movie being put out about horses? Probably quite a few years ago. Nothing in the theaters, that's for sure. And so, generation that's my parents, I'm about 40 years old, so generation that's my parents and older, they have had a lot of great movies and television and conversations about farms and horses and local stores, and that was the whole life, is just walking over to your neighbor and asking them for some sugar or some flour, right? That's so non-existent anymore. Kids nowadays, and I don't have my own, but I hang out with a lot of friends who do, they want to dance on TikTok. They don't want a pony anymore. They want to be a famous star on YouTube opening boxes with toys. It's just different. But the truth is, it's because they don't consume anything that is about horses. And part of that is because industries like this one don't show up online. I am forever surprised at how many little kids, like I'm talking 6-year-olds, have an iPad. Man, I got my iPad when I was 37, just as a perspective. And there's 6-year-olds on iPads, and they know how to use YouTube, and they learn how to do math, and all those cool things, and how to build things. But there's nobody creating, shouldn't say nobody, not very many people are creating content about horses, horse riding. What is it like to go and take a lesson? I sure know even in my generation, my friends didn't consume this. And so it is your guys' responsibility to start sharing your experiences and what are you doing to engage more of the generations to come to understand what is the attractiveness of actually using those services. And it doesn't have to be complicated, and I know for some of you it seems like a very dreadful topic, social media. I feel you, I do this for a living, I have a whole team, and I don't like posting online. That's just the truth. And I want you to shift it just a little bit. Instead of you creating something to post online, you're just going to document what you already do. There's some ideas on the handouts, but it's as easy as you posting a photo of your lesson. It's as easy as you posting a photo of the sunset at your stable and just saying good morning from, and then stable name. It doesn't have to be complicated. I'm gonna give you one more perspective here about social media. I live in Spruce Grove, and in Spruce Grove we have this gas station called Carbon. It's right on Main Street. Spruce Grove is just literally one big street if you think about it. There's not much to it. It's stores on both sides. So I pass it every single time I go anywhere, in town, out of town, to the store, I pass it. And it has been closed for like 2.5 years now. Lights off, they have those windows shut, like it's just closed. Nobody knows what happened, but it's just closed. I want you to think about your social media profiles as that store. If you don't post anything, it sure seems closed. Every time people are scrolling, they don't consciously think, oh, this place is closed, but they don't see you. And if they don't see you, they don't remember you were there. And if they don't remember you were there, they're not coming. They're not looking at your lessons, they're not looking at boarding, they're not looking at anything to do in Alpine community. So you don't have to post every single day, but once in a while just reminds them, hey, open sign, we're here, we're still open, and we still would love for you to come. So that will be the easiest shift that I can create for you when it comes to social media. Just think about yourself as doors open and the open sign lit. Social media should look exactly like that. What can you start sharing that will support your potential clients in actually knowing that you're still there and you still want them to come out? Now, for those of you who absolutely will not touch a phone, maybe you still have a flip phone, I know my mom does. Think about people around you. You know how those kids want to be TikTok stars now? There's also kids who really want to be videographers and photographers, and they want to be people creating those TikTok stars. They want to be behind the camera. Even the simple posting, looking for a 16 to 18-year-old who just wants to go into that field of digital media, design, online marketing, will give you someone who you don't have to pay a lot, doing it for you just so they can have you as a part of their portfolio. I have worked with a lot of clients who are over 90, running their little small family-run businesses in the middle of nowhere, and that's what they do. Sometimes it looks like grandchildren, sometimes it's literally a kid around the block who tried to shovel the snow and realized it's a little too hard, so it's easier to pull out a phone and take some pictures, right? So start thinking about creative ways on how you can involve your community, because really that's what it's about. And social media, that's what it is. It is a place for you to create community, to re-engage your community, and really bring them into your world. And show up so that more of the generations to come truly understand the value of what it is that you have. Because you work really hard for it. Some of you are multi-generational stable owners. And some of those 10, 15, 20-year-olds nowadays, they have no idea what that even means. So it will be up to you to teach them. Any questions? Happy to answer anything technical, or you can just take this with you. Oh, yeah, for sure. It's my pleasure. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
You folks have been so patient. I'm sure you're tired sitting, so if you wanted to take a minute, just adjust your sit down a little bit. One of our speakers, Tex Cam, got called away on emergency to work, so he's sitting in Fort McMurray right now. One of the things that Tex was going to talk to, and I'll give you just an extremely abbreviated version, he's been on a special committee looking at ways that the Arabian Horse Association, North America-wide, might change what it does a little bit to attract more people and not lose as many people as we're losing. And it's not just the Arabian world that's been suffering a downsizing. The whole horse industry has been taking a real hit lately. If there's one bright spot in the quarter horse world, it's called Yellowstone. That has created a ton of business for the quarter horse world, just in the perception of, he's kind of replacing the old Roy Rogers Lone Ranger days that many of us used to watch. Anyway, what Tex has learned as he's traveled from one end of the continent to the other is our future in the horse industry is the grassroots. It's the people who are going to come in and, as Archie talked about in his presentation, get into a lesson program and have fun and get ignited. And with that comes a whole sense of different issues actually pop up. Parenting today is quite a bit different than it has been in the past. You have helicopter parenting, and I guess we've always had it, but today it's affecting all of our kids and our families in different ways. So we've got to be able to be prepared to deal with that segment of the community that's going to come in and maybe not be as comfortable with how we used to do things. Animal rights activists are stepping up time and time again. There's reports out of the United States that the U.S. Agriculture Association, this has got nothing to do with Trump, by the way, but they were actually involved in training people so that each and every horse activity that went on in the United States of America would be regulated by the Department of Agriculture in the U.S. And what they do is not far behind here. So those are different things, different challenges. And while it may not affect us as stable owners directly, I look at it, we are the keepers. We're looking after those horses that are out there performing in the breed shows. We're out there looking after those horses that are providing great recreational activities. We're going to be influenced by what's happening. So anything we can do as stable owners to help create interest in our industry, I think it behooves us to take a good look at doing it. And maybe it's a clip-clop program. Maybe it's just having an open house every once in a while. Visiting seniors' residences, inviting seniors to come out to your place. Anything we can do that just raises the visibility of our barns, of our stables, and the touch and feel thing, and just helping people experience the horse industry as a possibility for their recreational activity. Again, we are the keepers, and we are the helpers, so we're involved right up to our necks. So that's just a brief rundown of what Tex was going to talk to you about. I'm very excited to introduce Deb Carroll to you. Deb, West Wind Veterinary Hospital, and they're involved in a changing world too. And Deb's going to share a little bit for you, so we have a better understanding of what these guys are up against and where they're going. And I'm not going to talk any more about potentially ruining the presentation.
I'd like I get to sit. Right. Oh, yeah, for me. Yep. Thank you.
so much.
You're welcome. Just nod it.
There is a clicker.
Oh, I don't know that now.
Is it just gonna be off here?
Can I just try one to see? Okay. Good afternoon, guys. I'm Deb Carroll. I'm from Westman Vet Hospital, but I'm here mostly on behalf of the veterinary profession, not on behalf of my practice. I have been in this area for over 35 years in the veterinary industry. I started volunteering for some people's husbands who were veterinarians back in the day, and have progressed through working at practices, and I've managed practices now for the last 25 years. Today, I think I have two goals. I'm very impressed with what's going on today, and I almost feel a little bit guilty coming with my message, because you guys all live the same life, so you'll figure it out here. But first, my first goal would be to learn what stable owners and the horse people in the area expect from their veterinarian. So I really like some feedback on that. And then second, to show some data that outlines the current state of and the future of veterinary medicine. So hopefully the whole outcome will be a better understanding between the groups, and we can improve our veterinary client relationships going forward. Okay, so I just want to ask the question, and I have to have a pen in my pocket, or maybe my friend can really write them all. No, I can write them all down, but anyways. What do you want? I'm going to start with a question that I hope you'll share your opinion on, and then I'll share the data that's unique to equine veterinary medicine, and then we're going to return to that question and see if we can work some things out together. Okay. Yep. So what would you like your veterinary team to do for you, for your horse, or your business? And if this is too broad, I did ask one of the stable owners if he could get us started, if you guys. Okay, go ahead. Do you need that? Do you want the mic? I can repeat it too, for recording purposes.
I can talk loud. The area, I mean, besides, taking care of the animals, the obvious things, the area that I really appreciate is help on herd health and backing up the stable owner on the herd health. That's always been a problem, and it's one area that I'm very, very strict on at our barn, is we do our vaccinations at a certain time of year, we do our worming at a certain time of year. I don't care who your vet is, if you want to bring somebody in because your horse is lame, but you use our vet and you follow our protocols. And I need a veterinarian who'll back me up on that. So that's something I really appreciate them doing. I had tried it a little bit looser method, found out that people lie about actually vaccinating their horses, actually worming. So my system probably sounds like I'm dealing with children, but you're welcome to worm your horse yourself, but you put the box and the syringe with the horse's name on it in a box after you've done it, and then I check them off and I throw them out, and then the vaccination has to be done by our veterinarian. We don't allow anybody except a veterinarian who happen to have been boarding at our place to vaccinate their own.
Okay. I think that's a very reasonable want from a veterinarian. Anybody else got anything? Yes. Gary.
As someone with a bunch of lesson horses, I would like for the veterinary to try to keep it somewhat reasonable to expenses when it's stuff that the stable owners can do themselves and work more productively with the stable owners. If I know that this horse has been on Previcox for the last 2 years and I need more Previcox, I should be able to just get more Previcox without having to trailer said horse to the vet clinic and have, $1,000 vet bill for something that should cost me $160.
Okay.
And that seems to be a bigger issue now than ever before. And not just with my stable, but I have found that acreage owners in the area now, they cannot afford to have a $2,500 vet bill for a couple of stitches, so now they're coming to me, wanting me to solve their problems. You know, especially if it's a $1,000 horse. And I feel that over the last few years, with some veterinarians closing down and things changing, that the veterinary industry is kind of pricing people completely out of horse ownership.
Thank you for that feedback.
We still want you to be able to eat though. So
Yeah, we're gonna
yeah, it's fine.
We're gonna get to that.
Have you got anything, you give them food when they come?
I have
We'll
been
just
eating
barter.
chickens. It's a thing.
Hi, we really appreciate that our vets are on top of best practices as those change. And that they educate us throughout a visit or after a visit. So it's not just that they come and they tip the problem, but they also, you know, give education. And something I personally have enjoyed, and I think helps to build that rapport that you're looking for between owners and vets, is that they talk about things like vet mental health and how the industry is changing, that sort of thing, on their social media, so that there's a better understanding. But yeah, in particular, the best practices and education.
Okay, thank you. Wait, good job. Divine color.
This is a kudo for you, Deb, and Westwind. My name's Georgina, and I've been using Westwind for a long time. And one of the things some of you may not know is that if you have a horse that needs some blood taken, for example, you know, a vet tech can do it. I had a vet tech to come to my place to take some blood because I was looking at, is it Cushing's or metabolic, and it was metabolic. And I just want to say that when you have a good relationship with your veterinary clinic, people get to know you, and they get to know that you always have your horse's best interest at heart. And I just want to say to you, Deb, it's not a question, it's just that I'm very impressed with the way I've been treated for my dogs and for my horses, and that you're very valued to me and to the people that are at my barn. I just wanted this opportunity to say this publicly. Thank you.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you, Georgina. Okay, we could open up the floor and let you all give kudos to your vets, but I bet you all have a story like that. So, and there's nothing terribly unique about my practice or me. I think all the veterinarians are in this business for the same reason, and it's certainly not to make money, despite what it might look like sometimes.
That's right.
Anything else that anybody wants to add out? Let's pop up just the things I got from another stable owner as well. So they said they would like a veterinarian to be able to come to the farm 24/7. They would like us to advise of the most practical and cost-effective recommendations, as someone else has mentioned. Provide the basic medications. Again, that's the Previcox scenario. And advise of new advances in vet med. So I guess that is our job. We're lifelong learners, and it absolutely is our job. Communicate health risks in the area. So,
Yes.
yeah, we can help with that too. Advise on things like the best first aid kit for a stable owner as opposed to the best first aid kit for just a single horse owner. Advise on cost-effective herd health. And keep stable owners aware of their client horse treatments, so that as a stable owner, you're not stuck not knowing what went on and what needs to be done. So those kind of things came up. And so I'm not actually gonna answer any of those right now, because that would be too nice. I think what I'd like to do first is just look at some current data and studies regarding the veterinary medicine sustainability, and then we'll go back to that, okay? So this Malatest company compiled information from a survey of veterinary professionals in Alberta in 2021. And it was prepared for the Alberta Vet Med Association and the Alberta Vet Tech Association. And it was sponsored by the Canadian government and the Alberta government. So you had a lot of interest in this study. The data predict a workforce shortage in Alberta of 5,000 RVTs and 4,000 veterinarians by 2040. So this is 2021 data. So factors contributing to this shortage of veterinary professionals is a low number of seats for students. So I don't, and I apologize for not having the numbers for the RVTs, but the DVMs, there are 40 seats for veterinary students in the province of Alberta. And we'll get to how this impacts equine too. There's a retiring workforce. Low recruitment rates because of the lifestyle and wages, and particularly as compared to human medicine. So when a young person is trying to choose a career in a medical field, they're not as likely to pick a low-paying job with poor life-work balance. Now that's where I felt really guilty, because I was listening to all your stories earlier, and everybody's like 24/7, 365, and I'm like, I'm not going to work. And I didn't. It's hard to say that in front of a group of people that work as hard as animal caregivers work. Any vets and RVTs that leave practicing early, so early in their careers, they always state the same things: financial pressures and burnout. And they choose, anybody that's coming into the practice is now choosing to work shorter weeks and part-time, anything to improve that work-life balance. So these are big things, big changes for our industry. Now, that was a 2021 study, as I said, and the changes have been made, but they're still not going to be adequate. They've increased the seats from 40 to 100 starting this year at UCBM, so there will be more veterinarians. They're streamlining foreign vets licensures, or trying to. Trying to streamline a foreign vet's licensure procedure is very difficult because they come from such varied backgrounds, and we have to have assurance that the people who are registered veterinarians in our country are capable and knowledgeable to the level that the Canadian standard expects. So, and then the ABVMA is trying to help too, the same way our Stable Owners Association is trying to help. They're trying to raise awareness, so they did start a public campaign trying to explain the value of veterinary care and trying to enhance the financial sustainability of vet practices, which are small businesses, just like yours, for the most part. Now, some of us on Marketplace are not all small businesses. That's a different story. Okay, so we don't have any equine-specific data for Alberta. All that was just general veterinarians in Alberta. But the AAP, which is the American Association of Equine Practitioners in the United States, is the voice for equine veterinarians. So, of all vets that go to vet school, 1.3% go into equine practice, straight out of vet school. Another 4.5% pursue further training as an intern, and within 5 years of graduating, 50% of them go somewhere else and do something else. They all state the same thing. They all state burnout and no work-life balance and financial stresses. So that's just where we're at in this profession. So even though you guys can work 365, the veterinarians that are up and coming cannot, will not, and for good reason. Nobody should do it. That's why you have to have some TAs around to take some of the weight away. So at AAEP is involved with a couple of publications, the EVJ, which is Equine Vet Journal. They surveyed young vets that had left the industry within 5 years, and there they are, all over again. And then Equimanagement, which is another AAEP publication just this winter, asked, so that they were asking the question because of a commission that had been established, and they asked veterinarians what they felt was most important to help with recruiting and retraining our next group of veterinarians. And overall, we wanted decreased emergency shifts, healthier practice cultures, increased compensation, flexible work schedules, shortened work weeks, and better mentoring. So they formed that AEP formed a Commission on Equine Veterinary Sustainability. You can go there if you want. I'll give anybody the link if they want it, or you can just keep that AEP in mind because you actually want to know what the AEP has to say, because as Gary mentioned earlier, what happens in the States is coming to Canada. We're just a little bit behind. So that commission, they looked at the 5 pillars: compensation, emergency coverage, internships, practice culture, and students. And their goal was just to help recruit and retrain equine veterinarians. And as they went and looked at these things, they started with compensation. And equine veterinarians, and this is I can get you actual numbers if you would like them. Their wages are lower when you compare them to small animal veterinarians, and most certainly when you compare them to small animal emergency veterinarians, despite the lifestyle. Wages are also much lower than any human medicine of comparable education. Okay? High student debt. In Alberta, 2023, the data from the Alberta Vet Med Association, most veterinarians are graduating with over $250,000 in debt for student loans to get through that education. Okay? And then in the horse industry, there's a historic expectation of fees, a lack of insurance for large animal medical procedures, high cost of insurance premiums when there is insurance in place for surgical procedures, high cost of technology, higher cost of staffing, and then a dilution of care with laypersons. And in our region, our veterinarians travel a lot. That's all unbillable time. And it's not, that's just a fact. It's just how far apart everybody is. So what you guys might see as this all comes to a head in however many years it's going to take to come to a head, you might see your veterinary practices asking you to schedule regional days. So all you folks in the West, please let us see you on Tuesday. All you folks in the North, please let us see you on Wednesday. And that's just to increase our efficiency so that our drive time is minimized. You might see increased fees to allow that small business to be sustainable. They have all the economic pressures of every other small business. You will, and I probably already have seen, call-in requests to optimize the staffing and improve efficiency in the veterinary practice. And almost for sure you've been asked for payment at time of service now, because a vet clinic can't afford to maintain that kind of inventory. Emergency coverage is the next thing that I think may change in the next few years in our region. It's a very common stressor for equine practitioners, and as we are trying to figure out how to make it work, a whole bunch of different scenarios have come forth. The first one would be, you hit 2. I think you hit 2, maybe I made a mistake, just try 1. You didn't. Okay, so you might see emergency cooperatives between local vets. So you might find that when you call your veterinarian with an emergency, on Monday you might see a veterinarian from practice A, on Tuesday you might see a veterinarian from practice B, on Thursday it'll be practice C, and you're not going to have a choice. And that's a hard thing for some people, especially in the horse industry, absolutely commonplace in the small animal industry, but we might have to get to that stage. And to be fair, as a total disclosure, the equine vets in our areas have got together a few times to talk about it to see if it's something that we need yet. And we don't feel we're in that position yet. So we're not there yet, but these are the things that absolutely are coming out in the States in their practices. Client-only emergency service. You might find a practice, if you are not an existing client, and every practice is going to define that slightly differently, they are not going to offer you emergency coverage. And it's not because they don't love you, it's not because they don't love your horse, it's not because they're terrible people, it's because they are so busy with the clients that they have, they cannot physically accommodate you. Because I guarantee there's not a vet in the world that wouldn't come if they could. Okay. And then you might see a for-fee teletriage service. This is already a business model in Alberta. A company offers to answer the phones after hours, and they answer them with registered veterinary technologists, and that technologist helps the person who's calling to make a decision as to whether this is truly emergent or if this is something that could wait for tomorrow. And that is for fee because as a horse owner, they ask you to sign up for this. So you sign up in advance, or you sign up at the time of your emergency. I would recommend in advance, it's a lot faster. When you're in the stress of having a problem. And then you pay a fee, and then they'll help you when you have a problem, help you triage it and see where to go. No, but I don't think any of the vet clinics in our area are using it, certainly not the equine ones. But it could come, so just things that might happen as we adjust to the new needs of the industry. call-in only emergency coverage, we did that. Yep, emergency only practices, this is what I'm dreaming of. I'm really hoping some little group of people wants to only do emergency medicine and just send everything that's emergent to that group of people all the time, and everybody else can do the daytime stuff. And then that leaves us with people who can actually accommodate that kind of an appointment after hours, joyfully, gleefully, not missing out on their child's hockey game. Well, we're not supposed to talk hockey, but and then you've already seen the payment and time of service thing. So then the AEP in this little commission also is offering practice owners and managers a lot of extra information so that they can optimize their practices, so that veterinarians and soon-to-be veterinarians want to be in the industry. So what horse owners can do, when we drag 16 students and an intern out, just tolerate us, please. And just let us participate in practice to the best of their ability too. And just thank you for being here and being aware of the pressures that are on veterinarians too. Okay. So then the AVMA, which is the American Vet Med Association, which is probably, it's not, and this is all animals, this is all species. They actually put out a little agreement in cooperation with that American Association of Equine Practitioners. I have copies of this if you guys want it, and I can email it to you if you want it. So you don't have to get too hung up on it, but it's just, as a client, what you should expect, and in return, we ask that. So when I was reading through, we can go through each of these if you want, but the bottom line is, this is just a great tool that I think you should talk with your veterinarian about, because then you know exactly why. So go ahead. I just made it a little bit bigger for a few of them, right? So I think on this page it was, except in certain cases your preferred veterinarian may not be available, and understand that anybody we would trust to see your horse is qualified to do that for you. Okay? And then on this one, this one made me laugh, because on the third one down it says, be seen on time or be notified of any delay, knowing that life-threatening illnesses or injuries will be prioritized over routine appointments. I think that's ridiculous, you'd have to say that loud to people. We all know what that's like. But then on the other side, this is what vets complain about on social media all the time. Be ready with your horse, appropriately restrained, and call ahead if you're going to need to reschedule or cancel. Mostly it's because we gotta go catch them, that's when they get, but that's inside. Okay. Yeah, that's what I mean, that was a both ways one, that's what I mean, they laugh, yeah. And then the bottom one, we need to arrive with a properly equipped vehicle, stocked to treat most issues that your horse can have. So I think maybe that one hit home for me, because I am notorious for not being able to get back to restock my truck when I get to the last appointment of the day. I'm like, I don't have any more puke. Right? Because you have to give us a bit of slack on that one too. And then their answer was, provide us with a safe working area, which most of the stables do, right? That's not a problem for stables, that's more of an acreage owner problem. And understand that call-in emergencies is going to be a thing for some practices. Okay. And then I think that's it. Oh, no, actually, let's stop on this one too. So medical records is another thing. So medical records, when we're, like, if practice A is gonna see you on Monday and then you have to refer back to your regular veterinarian, most of our practices in this region now use cloud-based medical records, so we can share that information easily. That's not a part of, that's not a problem. And so we will be working to make sure that clients have access to the medical records all the time and can share them in a timely fashion with a veterinarian that would attend. Okay. So how can we support you? So this is back to that list. How can we support you? Your little list. The herd health thing is easy, right? It's herd health, that you just need to have that discussion with your veterinarian. Cost effective? Yeah. Isn't that the magic of the world? Yeah.
As the world changes, letting us know if you guys are taking a break for your health, so we know that we're not trying to phone you and wait for that phone call back, and then already have it that, hey, you need to refer to West Windsor, Delaney, or whoever that is that's picking up for
Yeah.
you, and maybe letting your whole client base know that, hey, I'm gone, there's gonna be no emergency services available, and then us as owners communicating that to our staff. So, on the other side of that, so they know that, hey, if anything happens on weekend C, we're calling Deb, we're not calling
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah, I do understand that that's a problem, particularly for single practitioners. In group practices, that's usually not a problem, because you call the practice number and you get the group, right? But for a single practitioner, that is a big concern, and I'll share that with my colleagues that are single practitioners, yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna follow up with, when we have sports and something like that happens, I really believe that, like she was explaining, the horse is under a treatment, it's under a remedy. The veterinarian has been involved for quite some time. So then if I need a refill or I want something like that, I just get furious with getting gouged with, once again, an examination or being charged for having to pick up extra medications. And just wondering, when does a patient, does that, as soon as you walk off the land, is that patient's that problem, that patient is no longer, it would start a new issue just because you walked off the land, or vets walked off the land? That means to say, if I had to call you for some kind of thing, it would start all over again, and so would my bill. And, like I said, if the animal's under this treatment, at least be the patient for at least up to about 90 days. And the other thing, I don't understand if veterinarians are struggling so badly and the numbers are falling apart, then why take the very means off the shelves that we can help our animals with?
Sorry, take what off the shelves?
Like the antibiotics and stuff.
Oh, yeah, so these things, okay, so if I missed something, please make me go back to it. The taking antibiotics off the shelf and limiting access is not a veterinarian mandated thing. That's a federal government mandated thing. And it's based on environmental sustainability. There has to be responsible antimicrobial stewardship, and it is not achieved when there isn't a good reason to use antibiotics.
Isn't that why we have PID numbers, so people can keep track of who we are, how many hours we have, what we have?
It absolutely is part of that program.
So that should fall under cattle when we start worrying about antibiotics and stuff like that. So maybe the PID number could explain that we're stable people, we have horses and they're injured, so we need antibiotics. And maybe we'll be allowed to buy antibiotics just to cure maybe an infection in the leg, rather than paying $3,000 for that to come and look at, a gouge in the leg. They got infected.
Yeah, so, a million things. Antibiotic stewardship is not species specific. It is across all medical fields, human, everything. And it has changed so much in the last 10 years that if your knowledge as a stable owner came from 10 years ago, it is outdated. There are many, many things that we used to treat with antibiotics we no longer treat with antibiotics. So this is that sort of being on the cusp of veterinary medicine knowledge that puts a veterinarian at an advantage over someone who's not in that field, who is making a recommendation for an animal based on previous history or previous experience. The antimicrobial stewardship thing is a whole other conversation I'd be happy to do a talk on one day, but that is sort of not the scope of today. And then your other comment is a legality issue as well. The veterinarian must have done a physical exam and have a valid client-patient relationship within 1 year in order to be able to prescribe medications without another exam. So there's a legal recommendation. And so if I know your horses from vaccinations, deworming, dental care, routine maintenance kind of things, and I know you and your skill level and your knowledge level, then as a veterinarian, I can dispense a drug for a laceration. But what if that laceration didn't need antibiotics? So now I got double-barreled. So a veterinarian that is treating a horse for a current condition absolutely can refill without another examination, unless there is something happening that they believe there's been a change in the condition and there needs to be a modification in the treatment process. just straight ahead, we're doing TMS until it heals, they will give you TMS. If TMS doesn't work within 14 days, we need to back up, do a culture and sensitivity, repeat that culture and sensitivity, because now we've been on antibiotics for a little while, and perhaps change the course of what we're doing, then of course they need to see you again. Yeah.
Did you say that there's a quota, an admissions quota on, in the universities on veterinaries entering the program? And also, would it help increase the number of available veterinarians if more universities offered the veterinarian program?
Yes, to both questions. Yes, there are limited seats available in Alberta. As an Alberta resident, your choice at this point in time is the University of Calgary, and they currently have 40 seats. Their next class entering in 2025 will have 100 seats, and they have invested millions and millions and millions in infrastructure to accommodate those extra seats. So if we think it cost us $65 million to build the Point, imagine a vet clinic big enough to house, or a vet learning establishment to house 1,500 students. So yes, more, and if there were more universities as well, it would be helpful. And it's the same thing, it's just money, it's just a money game because it's so expensive to make a physical facility that can handle it, to hire all the professionals that are gonna teach the courses and actually administer it. So, yeah. So right now, the Alberta government is supporting those 100 seats in Calgary. There's no look for another school at this junction.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering with first of all, I have a question of, how much influence do the vets on the ground have over the decisions with Alberta Veterinary Medical Association?
Okay, there's nobody here from the ABVMA. As much as they want to have is the bottom line. So as a practicing veterinarian, the people who work at the ABVMA and volunteer at the ABVMA, because there are a lot of volunteer veterinarians in that capacity as well, do their very, very best to make sure that the needs are being met. Do they always, I don't always agree with everything that goes down. I'm sure that never happens in any field. But if I wanted to, I could be involved in every decision, for sure. So yes, I think the differentiation that we need to make, that I'm not sure if it's a nuance or not, but the Alberta Vet Med Association has no say on antibacterial or antibiotic stewardship. They have no say on other things that we've discussed. That's not a part of the ABVMA's mandate.
So with that, do you know if there is talks of broadening scope, say for vet techs and such, like they're just supposed to be doing with the human side here in Alberta, where they're increasing nurse practitioners, they're giving pharmacists bigger, broader scope to prescribe. Do you think that's gonna happen? Because
Yes.
the 1 year thing isn't turning out to be very practical, especially when there's a shortage of veterinarians. Having to see a vet every year for a horse, a 30-year-old horse that has Cushing's, just to get his Cushing's medication I think it's becoming impractical for sides.
Okay, and I can take that feedback back to the ABVMA and see if they can make any changes to that legislation. It's just, that's why. We're not being terrible veterinarians just trying to soak your last 50 bucks out of your pocket. It's really not our goal. We're just trying to maintain our licenses so we can continue to help the animals.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so I do, yes, there's already a drive, as Georgie alluded to, our technicians, our registered animal health technologists are already doing some appointments. They're already filling in the gaps where we need them to and where their training can take them. There is, in the States, Colorado recently passed a mid-level practitioner's law. They're gonna have 4-year university degree practitioner that's going to be allowed to practice veterinary medicine without any practical training. Yeah, so they're going to be allowed to spay your dog despite never being allowed to spay a dog. Yeah, yeah. So there's that. Okay, so let's see what else I did here. Would you guys like to see in-clinic seminars? Just keep clicking away here. Too many clickers. Let us know, like, and I would hope that part of the point can be the veterinary practices, maybe in cooperation with a group such as this, they could have speakers come in and help disseminate information. So anything you guys want your vets to tell you about, please let them know. Because I know, you know, as a practice owner, I sit in my office and I'm like, what can I do to make a difference? I'm like, well, I can have a seminar. Well, the same 20 people showed up as showed up last year, and I'm like, well, it didn't really help any, you know. So
I think that having virtual seminars that are recorded online as well, I often can't come to things at certain times, but I can certainly watch it afterwards as on my phone in bed, something like that.
That's a good point too, and I think that's a big one when I'm talking to our clients, and you brought up disseminating information. On the topic of disseminating information, having a client understand the difference between anecdotal and scientific evidence. And I mean, constantly people are coming in, look what new product I bought. How much did you pay for that? Oh my goodness. No, it works, I swear. My best friend told me. Like I don't want to see amateurs spend money on needless things. And I don't want to hurt their feelings, but I want to provide them with the best information. And you guys are the best people to provide that, because I always say, I'm not a vet, please talk to the vet. So open communication like that, and maybe virtual seminars where what works, what has evidence of working, and what is maybe something you take yourself out for lunch and instead.
Yes.
Your first day off, we want to know.
Okay. So I'd be happy to email you a first aid kit list any day of the week.
We provide equine first aid at our barn if you'd like to come take the course.
There you go. Yeah. Right in the middle.
I was just wondering, I had a sister that took nursing by apprenticeship. It was done here in Alberta in the 60s. Could there be more apprenticeship direction to the veterinarian? Meaning that she got out of nursing with zero cost to student. She worked about, at that time, wages were different. So she was paid somewhere between $30 to $40, I forget what it was, per. She worked on the wards and got her teaching included. So you remove the $250,000, you have a trained on-the-ground vet when they finish, and you have somebody that actually helps the system along the way.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and that is absolutely how nursing used to be. And in the early days of veterinary medicine, it's also how veterinary medicine was. In our current world, technology changes so fast. There is an information explosion. There is no way to keep up to it unless you have an extremely solid scientific background. So, and you cannot get an extremely solid scientific background on the job. You have to have taken all the baseline courses and be able to understand something from a physiologic, anatomic perspective before you could make an appropriate decision for things going forward. So I think 70 years ago, I'm gonna just guess, 60, 70 years ago, that was absolutely the way most professions worked. it can't work now, and like
I
that.
guess I disagree with you.
And for a veterinarian, I don't think it can work now, but the mid-level practitioner thing, or utilizing your technicians, your RVTs, absolutely on-the-job training will do it. And that's why I think in veterinary medicine, you'll see more technicians doing more and more things, but somewhere there has to be the DVM with the training. So like, and if you think I'm standing here blowing my own horn, I'm just gonna back up one step. I am already too old to be that person, because the education I received 40 years ago, it doesn't compete with the education that the younger vets are getting now. It can't. I didn't know how to run an ultrasound machine because there were none. So, you know, like, it's just, it's not the same anymore.
Wouldn't that be handled in ongoing training?
No, it can't, well, sure, handling an ultrasound machine, anybody can learn that, absolutely. It's the background medical knowledge that you can't pick up on the job training.
Yeah, don't they enforce you to have insurances, different insurances, right? As a vet, you have to have different insurances, and you have to be members of certain things, and there's all sorts of things, and they don't accept you unless you've actually gone through the board and got diplomas. So, you know, it's not by just apprenticing anymore.
No, it's not.
That's right.
Can we get the mic down to here? Seat's getting warm.
Just going back to how can your veterinarian support you? Just like, I love the idea of seminars and all that you have listed. Another thing that I have appreciated, and I've been really lucky, I guess, because every vet I've dealt with, and I've had horses for a very long time, has been great in terms of supporting me and being there when I need them and everything. One thing that I really, really have liked is where I can get, I'm an information junkie, I love getting more information, and where I can get, here's more where you could go read up if you want to know more about what we're talking about. I love that. Here's a link. Just send me a link. Yeah.
They're right there.
Thank you.
There you go.
And of course, anybody who's had horses for any amount of time, you end up going through some weird stuff. No matter what, you got some weird stuff. I'm happy to be sent to do more research so I can understand better.
Okay, thank you, that's good feedback too. So we can change our social media postings. My goodness, Cat's Talk is amazing. We can change our social media approach a little bit so that maybe we can use some of these things. So the things to take home right now, Alberta Animal Health Source website, they have white papers on that website. And the Equine Disease Communication Center, EDCC, there's an app for the EDCC. And that is where you're going to find what's going on in your neighborhood. So it's US and Canada, and then you can go to the filters, pick the filter that says Canada. If you want to narrow it really down, you can pick Alberta, and they will tell you everything that goes on in Alberta. Everything that needs to be reported will be on there, and you can find it, and you should have it on. You can even set it so it alerts you when there's an EIA case in Alberta. So those would be the two places that are super easy to go to. That American Association of Equine Practitioners, there are a ton of educational articles on there. To be honest, I go on as a member, so it's a little bit harder for me to know what's on there from the public perspective. But start there and see what you find, and always ask your vet for a reference as to where to go for more information on any given topic.
Hi, so back on the topic of communication skills with your vet. Firstly, with our veterinarian, she allows, like, for example, like, for example, determining what's an emergency and what's not an emergency. So our vet was really good about giving us her personal contact information, help us determine, like, for our animals, for pictures, videos, and media, so she can see what we're seeing. One question, would it be possible for veterinarians to supply a text number or a call, like a way to send videos of their animal to show what they're experiencing, so the veterinarian can help them either determine themselves actual emergency, or if Billy just tripped over a rock and just a little tender
Yes.
tripping over the rock.
That's a very good idea, and our practice absolutely has that ability. You can text us pictures, videos, and email whenever you want. I think that the time when it's not available is after hours, because we don't have anybody manning that text machine. But yes, absolutely, you can text anything, anytime, and we do get back to you.
So there's the question of how you, that can support you. But there's also the point that you need to support your vet. So, like, don't wait till the last minute to call them. Don't wait till the horse has been sick for 10 hours and okay, now it's 9 o'clock at night and I think I better call the vet. You know, make those determinations a little quicker. Listen to what they tell you, do what they tell you, and give them as much consideration as you can as well.
Yes, thank you, I appreciate that. And that is part of what's on this veterinarian agreement for effective equine care. I made a hot 10 copies. I had no idea how big attendance is going to be here today. But I also have a little sign-up sheet, so if you want to put your name and email address on it, I'll absolutely send you one. And if you have any other requests, like you want the link to the EDCC or anything, you can put it on there and I'll send it to you. Thank you want us to make more copies?
We can run some off.
If everybody wants one.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Give it to me and I'll run it up right now.
Thanks, Cory.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deb. One last little bit of information we want to share with you. This is a little bit more, I'm going to say, informal. We had hoped to have somebody here from some department in the provincial government to talk to us about employment standards on the farm. People you hire, how you pay them, what you have to do. 3 weeks' notice wasn't enough for them to prepare to do a 20-minute presentation. So you're going to receive a little handout sheet before you go, and it's just a couple of soft and fluffy stories about horses and being a stable owner. And on the back at the bottom is website information on where you can go to get information as far as the Alberta employment standards for farms go. So I encourage you to check that out. We're going to kind of finish some things off with a very interesting little dialogue and presentation and questions from Hetty. So Hetty Clausen.
Thanks, everybody. I'm in the dreaded last spot. So I'll try and make it brief. This is a little bit different because I'm probably going to give you more questions than answers. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Hetty Clausen. We own a small 18-stall boarding facility on the Y Road. When you were talking about old times, my husband used to train driving horses on the Y Road, if you can believe it. Now we don't even like to stand at the end of our driveway. In 4 days, we will have been there for 40 years. Isn't that not something? Hard to believe. So my husband was a trainer for many years, then went to work for the county fire department, and now is back giving, ever since he retired, for the last 10, 12 years, he's been giving lessons again. He's 75 years old and teaches about 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, so it's kind of a lifelong commitment. Our daughter Kathy, she's the barn manager now, and I'm the office manager. My background is, I wrote as a kid, I studied livestock production at Washington State University. I see Pam Zimmerman left because I was going to embarrass her because she and I are both from Washington State University, and we're both WSU NIRA Rodeo Association Queens from like many years ago. How's that for a piece of trivia? I worked in a large animal hospital practice for a few years. I was married to a large animal vet. And then I became an accountant, and I worked 27 years as Director of Financial Services for one of our local school boards here in Sherwood Park. So I have a kind of an interesting background. I have a strong science background, and I've also got a strong business background. I still ride amateur, always will and enjoy it. I have 3 horses right now, if you can believe it. One is old and I'm supposed to retire him, but I cannot seem to do that. What my goal kind of is for this talk is just to get the ball rolling. We had kind of pictured if we had a whole day, we wouldn't mind having breakout tables where we talk about topics. I've been to lots of conferences in the world of school board, accounting and finance where that's what we do. So like somebody might be at one table talking about insurance, somebody might be at another table talking about feeding or manure management and so on, and then you talk for 10 minutes and you switch. So this is kind of a start of what we are thinking we could share information amongst ourselves. And goodness knows that's one of the most important things I think of this whole organization. I've been a director from the onset of this, and let me tell you, it kind of came right after COVID. And wouldn't it have been great to have this organization and a voice during COVID? Because I know I was getting calls from all sorts of people, you know, a cowboy who has a stable out by Toefield. He'd be like, Hetty, I don't know what to do. And, you know, I kept trying to disseminate the information. I was able to actually get a equine exemption to keep our clinics rolling. And it would have been nice to share that with people. I mean, because of my background, it was easy to do. I won't say I'm not using easy because it took me 14 hours to do the form and send everything in. But we were able to keep going, but still had to follow by their really dumb rules. Like we were outside giving a clinic in the pouring rain, in the mud, because we couldn't have an instructor teaching inside at that point in time. We had to teach outside. Yeah, that was, yeah, it was horrible, wasn't it? It made no sense. I just thought this is not logical. But anyway, on to what I'm supposed to be talking about, actually. I'm not an expert on anything that I'm going to talk about. Matter of fact, polar opposite. This is an area all related to insurance that drives me nuts because I don't know enough about it, and the whole thing keeps changing. And it even changed yesterday. Yesterday my eyes were twitching, and I'll get to you about that, why that was. Now we all know we need insurance, I'm sure. I would hate to think that anybody who has a horse, period, doesn't have some kind of insurance. We need to look at liability, fire, theft, what the deductibles are and so on. And I won't even get into that. That's between you and your insurance agent. Every company's different, so on. My advice, though, is read your policy. That's what I was doing yesterday. Our policy comes into effect February 1st, and my eyes were twitching when I read my policy yesterday. One thing I am going to talk about is freelance coaches, because I think a lot of people aren't aware of the rules around that. And also, make sure that all your special events are covered. Because you know what, you have a social, it might not be covered. You have a horse show, depending on who you let come in. Like right now, our farm is covered for horse shows that are related to clinics and or only our own clients. I can't offer a horse show inviting all of you to come to my place on a Saturday. So if I'm not aware of that, that could really lead to some problems if there were some accidents. Freelance coaches, and that's something that kind of caught me, I guess not by surprise, but I learned something this year. So a freelance coach is somebody who doesn't just work for your facility. If somebody is an instructor and they work for your facility and that's it, that's fine. On your insurance form, you'll probably have to, the pre-questionnaire that you fill out before they do your insurance, you'll have to list them and how many years experience they have and so on and so forth, and that they're your employee and they only work at your place. But a freelance coach would be if I went to your stable and then I went to your stable and I went to your stable, or like in our case, we have lots of clinicians that come in. And so they're traveling all over the North America, some of them. And so they're considered freelance coaches. You need to have an insurance certificate from each one of those stating that you're also an additional insured under their policy. So they just call up their insurance company, say, I need to have Bob and Hetty Klassen, Courier Equine Park, listed as a additional insured. And then they send it to you. And then in our case, and this is how our company, insurance company works, I send it to our agent, and usually within a day or two, she says, fine, go ahead, or she has questions about their qualifications, and comes back and I have to work through that. As I was starting to work through the process for this year, I realized I never got one from somebody last year. And it was a case that they hadn't finished getting their new certificate, and I don't know, somehow it went through the cracks. And so I fessed up that I didn't have it last year, and she said, you do realize that it isn't just them that is then practicing there without insurance. You have no insurance for that event. It was a clinic, and I didn't get that clinician's insurance. So if somebody had gotten hurt at that clinic, I would have no insurance despite what I'm paying every year for liability insurance, because it's a requirement of my insurance that I have those there. And I guess I should have known it, but I didn't realize the full impact of it. And so I said to Gary again, I wonder how many people have clinics and they don't even think about it. They just bring in a clinician and, you know, and maybe your insurance allows that, but mine doesn't. So that's just something to think about. The other area is I always advise all our clients, and I just did that this weekend for my yearly update, is that they have to have their own liability insurance. Your horse kicks somebody, I've got insurance, but you don't. So make sure, even if it's your only horse, that you you can usually get a rider on your house insurance to cover the horse. And also, some people think, well, I have farm insurance, it's okay. But a lot of people's farm insurance only gives them insurance when the horses are on their property. It doesn't give them insurance for when they come to my stable or they go to somebody else's, or to a horse show or whatever they're going to. So I think it's a best practice that we remind our clients that this is the case. The other thing, WCB, I mean, it isn't a requirement for farms to carry it, a lot of us do, but my WCB does not cover a client if they bring in their own farrier, their own massage therapist, that sort of thing. And so I remind them of that when they bring in a farrier, which is one of the most common ones, we have a house farrier, but we probably have, I don't know, 4 other farriers that people bring in to do their horses. I don't have anything to do with it. I won't hold the horses if they bring their own farrier. I don't book it, you know, it's all their thing. But they also take on the liability, just like you would if you had somebody come in and work on your roof on your house. You need to check and make sure they have WCB or some sort of disability coverage, otherwise you are taking on that liability. So I remind them in that same letter about that same thing. Waivers and boarding contracts, I was lucky enough that Cam Krause, our lawyer that spoke earlier, he went over mine because he was starting boarding horses at his place, so he used mine as a template. He made some changes to it, so that's great. But I've been advised, I think probably about 8-9 years ago, the insurance company that I worked with came in and said, how often do you get one of their questions for my yearly insurance was, how often do you get your waivers signed? Well, when the client comes. And one of our clients had been there for 20 years and I still had the original waiver. So best practices, they get done every year. So 1st of January, I give them 30 days to get their new waiver in. I still, of course, have their waivers from last year, and should something happen anytime, I'm still gonna pull those. But best practices, every year, get your waivers signed. EC Coach, we'll talk about EC Coaching. I'm not gonna talk about the program, although my husband and I do believe in it. We believe that there has to be some certification of instructors. We've seen some instructors that we can't believe are instructing. And you know, some people don't like the EC program. That's fine, but at least it's a start, it's a measure of assurance. My husband at age 73, and he certainly didn't need to go do it, got his, and renews it every year. And just because we want to show young instructors that we feel it's important and we're going to do it. What is interesting though is everybody kept saying, well, it's not going to impact your insurance. And I did hear somebody else, I think it was you, maybe mentioned that it did. And I do believe it does. Our insurance hasn't been impacted by it, but I am required to list any instructor that comes to our place, whether they're EC certified or not. And as I've been collecting these insurance policies from the various clinicians that we have, I did notice on one who sent me her whole thing with her cover letter, and it did indicate that they are going to be giving a discount to anybody that has their certification. So I just thought that was interesting. I will go through what made me twitch yesterday. Got my policy on Thursday, didn't read it on Friday. Yesterday I thought, I should practice what I preach. I should read my policy. And the insurance company I've been with, we've been with them for 40, well, more than 40, I was with them before the 40 years. But they've gone through, the original company sold, then the new company sold, and now they're with like the third company. And my agent did give me a little heads up, because she said, Hetty, be sure to read this over the next week and send in the acceptance. And I've never had to do that before. I've never had to send in an acceptance. And I thought that was a little odd. Well, listen to what we're not now. Our policy is $11,000 a year, so I'm thinking I should be pretty covered. But no, we're not covered to breed any non-owned horses, including stallions. Now, I have to admit, I would have never thought about that. We've been breeding horses for years. We don't have a stallion right now, but if somebody had brought in a stallion and wanted us to cover a mare, we would have. My husband, who was a horse show judge for many years for the Arabian Association, Equine Canada, or CEF as it was back there, is not covered to judge a horse show. So if he'd gone to a little local 4-H club and asked him to go judge a show, I would have never thought about it. And if there'd been an accident during the show, we wouldn't have any insurance for him being in charge of that ring. When you think about it, as a judge, you are in charge of that ring. Another one that made me twitch is we have 2 horse trailers. I knew my living quarter trailer wasn't, I couldn't haul anybody else in there, and I don't want to haul anybody else in there. But our other trailer, I've always had commercial hauling insurance on it and never thought about it. But this policy clearly says I'm not covered to transport any border or student horses. I'm also not covered to own livestock other than equine. So, like somebody pointed out, if I got a chicken and it pecked somebody, I'd be in trouble. And my question is, what if I finally got that miniature donkey that I've been bugging my husband for, that he will never let me get, but what if I finally got it? It says horses, so.
Never getting a donkey.
So I guess I wouldn't be covered. I'm not covered for a bed and breakfast, which led me to the question, we have an apartment in the barn, and sometimes people who come in for clinics rent it from us if there isn't a clinician that uses it. We're not covered for farm tours. Does that include people coming out to see the farm to come and board at our place? I'm not covered for sale of equine-related products over $1,000, and I know lots of places sell hay and other products, and I'm guessing they probably don't think about talking to their insurance company about it. And then finally, my son, who worked for 2 years resolving insurance during the floods of Calgary and Fort Mac, said, what about exclusions as a contributing factor? And I'm like, huh? And what he said was, let's say, I know I don't have insurance to haul a horse, but we've got a horse that really has to go to Momentum, which is like 2 minutes down the road from us. I throw it in the trailer, a deer jumps out in front of my truck, I slam on the brakes, it's icy road, and I slam into somebody. Because I'm hauling a horse that isn't owned, that goes against that insurance policy, I wouldn't have liability or collision because of that. And I had no idea about that. And so he said that's something that I should have, be aware. I mean, you obviously can't do anything about it. On the bright side, I am covered to have a watercraft up to 26 feet. So anyway, those are just ideas, and I hope it will make you look at your policy and ask the questions of your insurance people, and think about things, because like I said, all those things on there I would have never thought about. I would have just gone ahead and done and gotten myself into hot water. And hopefully we can have more of these discussions, and if anybody has anything they want to share on the thing of insurance, please do. But we're hoping that we can carry on and have more of these kinds of discussions amongst stable owners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hetty. That's what you call the voice of experience. Well, thanks so much for coming. You've been very patient. This is a long time to keep you seated. I think if we were to do this again, we'd have a break halfway through so you could stretch your legs. We've distributed some surveys throughout the crowd. If you wouldn't mind just taking a minute, it's fairly simple. You can just draw circles around stuff, unless you got important things to say, then you can write on the front, you can write on the back, and we could probably even find you with an extra sheet if you needed to say more. But we're really interested to know what you think about this kind of organization. We're interested to know your thoughts on what we should be doing in the future if there is a purpose for this organization. Obviously, if this organization does continue, we want to know if it's suitable for you to be a member. We even want to know how much you think it's worth paying to develop a membership fee, just to get your ideas on what we can do moving forward. Obviously, education is a huge component, and it's the education of learning all of those little innuendo things, like why your insurance policy includes an 18-foot watercraft. That's the fine print, and those are the things we've got to answer, and we've got to help you. So if there's no other questions, you can leave those for the surveys on the table. I'm going to put out one other little handout you can take with you. If you want to sit and chat, we'll leave this room, and we can just kind of gather out in the foyer and chat there. Thank you again for coming.